All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you're new. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and thank you for waiting patiently, as always, for the intro to do what it does. I hope everybody's day is going well. I do have a poll out right now. Be sure to vote on it. The poll is, did you buy or upgrade to The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered? The options are yes, I bought it, yes, I upgraded, or no, I did neither. So be sure to vote on that poll, and we'll check back on that later on. But yeah, hope everybody's Sunday is going well. Today, I mean, let's be honest, there's like almost no PlayStation news happening right now. But Sony did release The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and what I wanted to do in this stream is talk extensively about Naughty Dog, about The Last of Us Part 2, about The Last of Us franchise, and also about something in particular. Now, when people read my title here, Naughty Dog can't let this go, I'm not sure what your mind jumps to or what you're thinking of. So I'll explain what I'm talking about. It might surprise you, it might not surprise you, but either way, I have something to say here about Naughty Dog, and I feel pretty confident, excuse me, in saying this after putting about 12 hours into The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Is it going to be a rant? I mean, it might be, but again, I feel like it might go. I think some people are automatically. I'll let you know right now. It has to do with Naughty Dog's future in the multiplayer space. All right, so if you're expecting like, I mean, who knows? There could be a massive rant about The Last of Us Part 2 story once again in this stream. And I'd say some people are probably expecting that. But no, I definitely want to dive deep into this conversation. But before I do that, guys, I want to give a shout out to Mepsic. Mepsic, a longtime member, decided to re-up his membership. Mepsic, I really appreciate that, man. Thank you for the support. And when I say longtime member, I wasn't kidding. He's been a member for 41 months. And he says here with his member milestone chat, I was watching the live stream of you playing The Last of Us 2 again for the first time yesterday. I laughed when Joel saved Abby, and you said, no fucking way. Yeah, dude, I remember that stream. It was interesting. It was a fascinating experience kind of streaming that, and that was genuinely surprising to me because again, I went into it knowing a lot of the game because of the leaks, but there were still so many things missing, and that was one of the things that I didn't come across in any of the leaks where it's like, oh yeah, part of the beginning of that game is Abby actually saves Joel, or sorry, Joel actually saves Abby, and it was good times, man. Good, maybe good. I don't know. Bad times. I don't know. Interesting times, nonetheless. But Mepsic, thank you so much for that, man. So yeah, before I dive into this conversation, I want to just first off thank everybody for tuning in. For those of you who watch the streams live, thank you. If you watch the streams later on, thank you. Make sure you utilize the timestamps that Devil Shooter does. That's why they're there. If you could do me a favor, guys, we have over 240 people here already, which is great to see. Do me a favor, hit that like button, okay? Even if you're not, a big fan of The Last of Us Part 2 or whatever, keep in mind, hitting the like button, you're helping me, you're helping the channel, you're helping the content, all right? So take a second every time, hit that like button. I think we could easily get to 100 likes. Want to let you know 3 ways you can support me directly. Number 1, consider becoming a channel member. You gain access to the Members Lounge, which is an exclusive place where I hang out with my channel members. We are doing a Members Lounge after today's episode. So if you are a member, look forward to that. Or if you're thinking about becoming a member, please do so. If you are already a member, you can also gift memberships, okay? Gifting memberships is a big thing we do here on the channel. Not only does it help support me directly, but it gets the community directly involved. And it's just kind of the community's way of kind of giving back to the community. And to the channel. So consider doing that. And then last but not least, consider donating a super chat. Ask a question, give an opinion, make a statement, anything in between. It all helps tremendously. So a big thank you to everybody who supports this channel directly. If it wasn't for your support, I wouldn't be able to do this. So with that being said, I want to move on to, let's say move on as if we've really already covered a topic, but I want to first dive into my impressions of The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. All right. So for those who are unaware, although I do assume that most of you are aware, I have pretty strong opinions about The Last of Us Part 2. I feel like my opinion of the story has greatly outweighed my opinion of the game as a whole, as a complete package. And I think that's understandable because, I mean, to be fair, most of the conversation I've had around The Last of Us Part 2 is in regards to its story. But the interesting thing about The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is it did present an interesting opportunity for me, and that was to attempt to re-experience this game knowing like I know every single thing that's going to happen. I can't be surprised by anything. And also knowing that the conversation surrounding it is going to be a lot less engaging this time around because it's the second go. You know what I mean? Like, I noticed that The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is not. I don't want to say it's not doing well. I don't know if it's doing well or not. I mean, I'm assuming it's doing decently well on PlayStation and with PlayStation fans or Naughty Dog fans or Last of Us fans. But I noticed it's just not igniting the conversation. And it's a good thing, in my opinion, because it really doesn't need to be reignited to such an extreme degree. For those of you who were there or partook in that conversation when The Last of Us Part 2 first came out, it was insanity. I mean, it was very extreme and very volatile. I mean, possibly the most volatile conversation around a game I've ever seen in my life. And so maybe because of that, it's a little bit surprising to see that the conversation is much more muted this time around, or a lot quieter. But I think it's a good thing because what it's allowing me to do is to just peacefully, if you want to use that terminology, immerse myself in this game, and re-experience it with a different focus. And what I've noticed, because I've put 12 hours into this so far. When it comes to playing the story, I don't know what chapter I'm on. I just got to that part where I'm playing as Ellie. I'm with Dina. We're in Seattle. I just got to the part where you are on Tommy's trail, where you come across the bloodbath, I guess you could say, where he just kind of was torturing people to get answers or whatever, the WLF, and I'm just at that part, and just putting that out there so you have an understanding. This is why I'm saying it's not like a re-review or another review of The Last of Us 2 because I haven't beaten it yet, but I also put a good chunk of time, I don't know how many hours exactly, but a good chunk of time into the no return mode. And so let me talk about the story. So first. Well, actually, before the story, let me talk about the actual upgrade. So something I've seen a lot of people talking about is how The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered just doesn't seem like a worthwhile upgrade because it seems like it doesn't really look remastered. It looks pretty much the same as The Last of Us Part 2 on PlayStation 4. And especially if you play that, if you don't get the remastered version and you play The Last of Us Part 2 on PS5, you are getting 60 FPS. So because of that, people are basically saying, like, this isn't really remastered at all. I agree 100%. Okay, I am playing this game. To be clear, it doesn't look bad. And I think that's where sometimes conversations like this can get a little bit muddy, where I think people assume that when somebody says it doesn't seem like a worthwhile upgrade or I don't see any difference, that equates to the game looks bad. No, we all know that The Last of Us Part 2 is a beautiful game. It's a stunning game. Regardless of your feelings on Naughty Dog, if there's something that I think we can all objectively or say on an objective level is that they make good looking games. Like, they make pretty games. They know what they're doing in this area. And so The Last of Us Part 2, what I will say is it maintains that beauty of the game. And I've noticed that while playing it, that, like, man, the attention to detail graphics wise is next level. It just is. However, you can tell this is a PlayStation 4 game. When I am playing this, I'm playing it in the performance mode. So it's at 1440p, 60 frames per second. I can tell, especially at the 60 FPS, 14, because they have to lower the resolution, basically cut it in half. You can tell, yeah, this is not, we are not seeing what Naughty Dog can do graphically speaking with just the PS5. We still haven't seen that, and even with this remaster. So it's you're looking at the same game basically. It is nice to be able to play it at to be clear, I don't know what the resolution is when you are playing it at 60 FPS for the base version, not the remastered version, but 1440p 60 FPS looks pretty good. I noticed there are some imperfections where for some reason this seems to be an issue with the PlayStation 5 to a certain extent with these, I guess, really graphics intense and any games that are just like really intense in the graphical department. There seems to be a little bit of like, if not shimmering, it just kind of has this, like you can just kind of see the artifacts pretty clearly. And it can be a little bit distracting at times, but that's a problem I've kind of noticed all throughout this generation with performance modes on the PS5. So I guess maybe it's just a kind of compromise. We have Game Over Cholo with his 20th super chat, which thank you so much for that, man. I appreciate that support. You're saying, I unlocked all the characters. Good challenge. Got the platinum imported, and it was worth the $10 easily. The Last of Us Remastered is going to do great alongside the HBO show. I do agree with that. I mean, when you think about why Sony would greenlight this remaster and kind of get it out the door so quickly, there's no doubt in my mind that the upcoming season 2 of The Last of Us HBO, I mean, there's no denying it. It is going to create a synergy where it's going to help sell the game. We actually saw that happen with the first season with The Last of Us Part 1 and even The Last of Us Part 2 on PS4. So I have no doubt about that. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment, like whether or not I feel like it's worth the upgrade. I'm going to get to that. But yeah, I'm playing the game, at 1440p, 60 FPS. It looks great. It really kind of makes me excited to see what Naughty Dog is going to do graphically speaking with the PS5, with hopefully a new game, right? I don't know when we're going to see a new game from them. We have to imagine it sooner rather than later, you would hope. But it does get me excited. I did turn the film grain down to 0. I turned the motion blur down to 0. So I think because of that, it reveals a little bit more of the imperfections. But I can't stand, like, in my opinion, having things like motion blur and film grain with games like this just detracts from it and actually makes it look worse than it needs to look. So I always turn those things off. I did keep the camera shake on. And I also want to give a shout out to one of the settings that they added, which was pretty huge for me. I didn't even realize it until I enabled it. And that is that you can change the field of view. So I turned the field of view all the way up to 10, and they tell you should maybe stay at like 5. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go to 10. So, it zooms you out a little bit. You get a wider field of view. You can see more, somewhat game changing. I'll be honest. Like it's a little bit of a game changer where it's like, wow, I can take in so much more now, and I have so much more awareness. And I don't know that it makes the game easier, but it makes it less claustrophobic, I guess. And I don't know. I can understand why design wise, maybe that's not their intent, but it made the gameplay more fun for me. So I just want to give a shout out to them actually adding that setting, which I hope in any future Naughty Dog games, assuming they're going to be third person, I hope that they continue to offer that option. But graphically speaking, I am reminded while playing this game that, and it's interesting because there's been, some discourse happening on the internet with Uncharted 4 because of Indiana Jones, which, I get it. I understand why some people are going to have those conversations. But the truth is, like, Naughty Dog is on another level when it comes to attention to detail and just graphical fidelity. And The Last of Us Part 2 holds up incredibly well. I mean, obviously, it's a 2020 game, so it's like it hasn't even been a full 4 years yet. So of course you expect it to hold up, but again, it gets me excited for what Naughty Dog is going to do, graphically speaking, with a proper PS5 game. So that aspect of it, I'm pretty happy with. I do understand though why there are people who are like, man, I expected more since this is remastered. I get that. Like, it is understandable that some people would go into a game like The Last of Us Part 2 remastered on PS5 expecting like this is going to be, Naughty Dog pushing the limit, right, of what the PS5 can do. It's like, unfortunately, no. This game was made on the PlayStation 4 with an engine that's, geared towards the PS4. You're not going to see that with this. Even with something like The Last of Us Part 1, right? Like, you're not going to see that. The only time you're going to see what Naughty Dog is capable of doing with the PS5 and the PS5 alone is with a brand new game built from the ground up with the PS5. And so I can understand why some people are a little bit disappointed in that. But moving away from talking about the graphical fidelity of the game and how it looks, I want to talk about the story a little bit and what I've played of it so far. And, obviously this is where things get really controversial, but for me, what I've noticed is I'm basically, to an extent, tuning out of the story. Not purposely. I just am, because it's like, I'm replaying the section where Joel dies, and I won't lie, like there are certain parts that I'm trying to pay closer attention to and just trying to gauge, like, is it evoking the same feeling from me that it did the first time when I played it 3 years ago? Like, do I feel as annoyed by it, or as unsettled by it, or as disgusted, whatever word you want to throw in there? Like, is it evoking the same feeling? And I won't lie, like, other than there was one part in particular, and it was the scene with Abby, where she kills Joel. I can't deny that, like, yeah, my feelings have not changed at all. Like, even a little bit. And I like legitimately almost stopped playing. I'm like, dude, I don't think I could do this again. But then I realized, like, all right, well, the story. Just whatever, get through this part and then play the game. Play the game, see it through. And I'm going to do that. And I will say that once I got past that part again, and I just started allowing myself to get more immersed in the gameplay side of it, I started to enjoy it a lot more. But I am just finding that my feelings on the direction that they decided to take the story in, as of right now, are, yeah, they're holding up. Like, my thoughts are not changing on it. So one of the things, and I know that this is maybe going to like trigger some people, but I'm just being real. I'm just being brutally honest. One of the things that I remember people were always criticizing about The Last of Us Part 2, myself included, was the way Abby looks, right? Like, her actual build, and how it just seemed like Naughty Dog purposely wanted to make this woman abnormally muscular and masculine in some kind of, way to show some type of dominance over the other characters or something. And, and there was even that whole rumor that she was trans or whatever, which we know is, turned out to be false. But I do remember, like, this being a really significant talking point, where the amount of memes that were made based off of Abby her being like buff, basically, pretty funny. But it just goes to show, like, it really was a standout thing with this character. It wasn't just, like a small, kind of scrappy female, and in the sense of, like, I guess how you could consider Ellie catching Joel off guard and killing him. It was just straight up like, she may as well have flexed on him, you know what I mean? And I rewatched this scene, and I went into it thinking, maybe I judged Abby too harshly, maybe I was too quick to agree with some of the takes out there that people were presenting. And I can tell you wholeheartedly after replaying that scene, no, I don't know what the fuck Naughty Dog was thinking, but this scene single-handedly ruined, like, I'm not saying for me personally, but for a lot of people, that scene single-handedly ruined the franchise forever for a group of fans. And I know Naughty Dog doesn't care, and I know the people who are a fan of the game don't care, and it's not because Joel died. Okay? It's because, like, even right now, while replaying Last of Us Part 2, the thing that I am really curious to see, I'm playing as Ellie. I'm enjoying my time playing as Ellie. Ellie, the chemistry between Ellie and Dina, not bad. Not bad. I'm kind of, I'm enjoying it. I like Ellie. Knowing that later on in this game, I'm going to have to play like half of this game as this character that I fucking despise. I'll be really interested when I get to that point of the game to see if I actually continue to play it or not, because it was all kind of coming back to me where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember going through these motions. I hate the intro of this game. I start to like this game a little bit more because I'm really starting to get acquainted with playing as Ellie and going on this hunt. And then I get later on into the game, it's like, and then I find out, yeah, like, dude, 12 plus hours of this game, you're playing as the person that you can't, like, you just don't like. And that's why I'm saying I think this is what creates truly the bad taste in people's mouths that some people are never, it's just never gonna be removed. It's not just that Abby killed Joel. It's not just that they did it in an insane way that's like, holy shit, dude, they fucking did it. They went there. They crossed the line. Like, I can't believe this. It's then, and they're like, oh, and by the way, this is a new main character. And it's like, what? And so I know some people love that. I get it. I know some people love that, but it is truly one of those things. And I think if you can't see why some people would not like that at all, like if you can't acknowledge that, I think you're being blinded or a bit dense, where it's like, I can see why people like it, but I can absolutely understand, because I'm one of those people, why people don't like it. And I just think that regardless of my own feelings after replaying at least the beginning of this game, it's just a stark reminder of, this game was always going to be unbelievably divisive. It was always going to be this way, just because of the way that they decided to handle the intro. Now, granted, a lot of people were telling me, MBG, you got to play through this game with the developer commentary on the cutscenes. I wasn't able to properly import my save, so I'm going to play through the game just regularly, and then I'm going to go back and at least watch some of these cutscenes with the developer commentary, because I'm actually pretty interested in it. Michael Lynch, you're saying, too bad there's not a fourth option saying I didn't get it yet, but I plan to. Oh, yeah, you know what? My bad. I probably should have added that option. Well, you could just click I bought it or I upgraded it to it, and it'll get the general point across that you're going to support it. So I apologize for that, Michael, but 47, you're saying you think people are dense that do not understand that Ellie and Abby are two sides of the same coin. No, see, yeah, I think that as well. I do think that as well. Like, I think people should, and that's something I've realized is, so when I was replaying this, I was rewatching the scene where, I gotta tell you, I gotta, you tell, it's all coming back now. I remember people telling me, like, over and over again, like, dude, the way that Joel and Tommy were behaving when they encountered Abby and her group was just not, like, it was bad writing. Like, that's not at all how these characters would behave in that type of situation. They were way too buddy, way too like, hey, what's up, guys? You want to join us? You know, like just like their guard was completely down. And I remember, and I heard people say that after I'd already played it. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know, guys, maybe that's a stretch. But what I can tell you is replaying this and rewatching that, I was watching it much more closely, and I realized, yeah, this is kind of weird. Like, for example, you're saying especially, yeah, Tommy was like straight up being a dumbass. I'll be honest, he was just straight up being a dumb. Like, I don't know why he's like dude, literally in the middle of them trying to escape, he turns to Abby and says, I'm Tommy, this is my brother Joel, for just no reason whatsoever. Like, it wasn't even at an appropriate time. It was in the middle of them trying to escape, and he just had to stop and let this random person know that they have no idea who she is, who they are, and their names. And what makes it even dumber, truthfully, is that the scene prior to this, like the opening scene of this game, is Joel confessing to Tommy what he did, making it known, like, hey, Tommy, just so you know, I'm like fucking wanted, bro. Like, I committed an atrocity to save Ellie, and there's gonna be, you know, like, my name is, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it was conveyed like I committed a horrible thing, an atrocity here that is, you know, makes me a target. And to just, and I know it's 4 years have passed, but it's like, Jesus, man, like, what, did Tommy just forget, or did he just not care? She's like, well, you know, it makes no sense, because it makes Joel and Tommy look like dumbasses, when in reality, if they were this dumb this whole time, they would have never made it this far. That's what bothers me, is that if they were this dumb this whole time, they would have never survived this long in this world. No doubt about it. Like it would have made more sense if they added something in that scene where Joel like kind of took Tommy to the side and was like, why are you just getting friendly here? You know what I mean? To at least show that one of them is at least not just willingly, you know what I mean? It's just, you're saying Tommy was just in the Jackson community for years. It's logical that he would let his guard down. I mean, there is an argument to be made for that, I guess, in that, like, maybe Joel and Tommy got too comfortable. I get that, but it's like, but the thing is, even when you look at the context of why they were out there in the first place, they were out there to clear infected. And it's just difficult for me to imagine that, you know, they are constantly exposing themselves to the danger of this world. Granted, maybe not all the people they come across are dangerous, but again, you're talking to two people who survived as hunters. Like, this is just where it's like, I understand why this needed to happen the way it did in order for the plot to move forward the way it needed to, and the way that Naughty Dog wanted it to. But in my opinion, after rewatching this scene, that is like the biggest red flag, in just, they fucking literally walked into the wolves den without even, like, basically smiling and laughing. And it was especially cringe when, you know, Tommy's just hanging on the bar and, you know, he says their names, and then, you know, Joel's just kind of standing there and everybody's like getting all tense around him, and he's like, y'all act like you heard of us or something. Like, I mean, it really is just like, there's no way. Like that, like, there's just no way. Like, what do these characters have amnesia? Anyway, I know I'm really harping on this, and maybe people will say I'm just over, you know, I'm reaching or over exaggerating. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm being a bit tense about it, but it's because that kind of stuck in my mind, and I wanted to really reevaluate this and see, were people who were saying that, were they being ridiculous, or were they actually valid in that, like, hey, this is a pretty keen observation where it's like, these characters are not at all behaving the way that they normally would. And the fact that it sets up such a climactic moment, you know, it's like, yeah, it was a little strange, man. It was. But I'm gonna read these super chats. I just have one other thing to say, and that is to get back to what I think 47 said earlier. He said that some people are dense for not realizing that at the end of the day, like Ellie and Abby are just two sides of the same coin. And I agree with that. Like, if there's one thing that I kind of realized, well, again, I haven't recompleted the game, but as I'm playing it again and I'm kind of paying closer attention, or at least I'm trying to, I'm getting too distracted by, not distracted, but I'm getting too into the gameplay where I'm like, I keep kind of forgetting, like, man, there's a heavy story going on around this gameplay right now, but I'm loving the gameplay, which I'll talk about soon. But I kind of realized that, like, yeah, at the end of the day, the story really is just about, like, shitty people doing shitty things to one another to just come to the conclusion that, wow, it turns out that my lust for revenge made me lose pretty much everything. And at what point does it stop? And I get that. That's, like, to me, that's not a bad story. That's not a bad theme. I think that's an interesting theme. That can always be an interesting theme. But I just can't help but find that, again, that intro, man, just, I didn't quite realize how shitty Abby really was. I'll be honest with you. Like, I was so pissed off the first time around when I played this game at, like, I can't believe Naughty Dog would do this way, that I didn't really pay close enough attention to the way Abby behaved in the moment when she got Joel. And what I was kind of taking, like, mental notes where I'm like, okay, she basically blew his leg off with a shotgun. And I don't know why I just didn't realize the first time around that, Joel's like, all right, save your fucking speech and just get it over with. And Joel knew, Joel, again, in that, I guess Joel woke up and got real smart. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm clearly going to die because these people know who I am. I guess he just realized that once his leg got practically blown off. And, he says that, and Abby basically says, tourniquet his leg. And I don't know why I just didn't realize that she wanted to. Maybe it was just I kind of forgot how it went down. I guess in my mind, I just thought, oh, she just clubbed him over the head. But it's like, in reality, she slowly beat him to death, and, like, purposely kept him alive to torture him. And it's like, I guess what I'm saying is my animosity towards Abby as a character originally was actually only fueled by the fact that she killed Joel. But this time around, like, after paying closer attention and realizing, holy shit, you're horrible. Like, you're like an evil person, dude. Like, Joel, I know people always talk about how Joel had it coming, Joel deserved it. Dude, at least Joel was just, like, based off of what we know, we know that Joel has a horrible past as a hunter, so God knows what other sins he committed. That if they ever fleshed that out, I'd love to see that fleshed out. I mean, if Naughty Dog really wanted to paint Joel as a monster, they would show us what his time as a hunter was like. But it's like, in watching this, it only just now kind of washed over me. Like, holy shit, Abby is fucking insane. like she really wanted to torment this guy. And I get it, when you're that rage-filled and fueled by revenge, you do insane things. But it just kind of made me hate the character more. Truthfully speaking, Joel's not real. He's real to me, damn it. Joel's real to me, damn it. But no, it just added another layer there that I don't know. I'm kind of, in a way, glad that I'm replaying this game, because I'm realizing, like, dude, there were things that I didn't fully pick up on because I was just so in the moment, driven by, all right, let's see how bad this really is. But now that I'm like just kind of calmed down and going into it, like just really trying to pay close attention, I'm finding that it is evoking similar almost more intense feelings in some instances, not all. Because again, there are other times where I'm just kind of like, all right, I'm checked out. I'm just playing the game. But those really intense moments where Naughty Dog's like, we got to grab your attention now. Like, we really want you to pay attention to this part. I am paying close attention. And so it's an interesting experience. I got to read some super chats. Before I do, though, I got to give a big shout out to Exley Trismegistus dropping 5 membership gifts. Following Jake Skew 27 dropping a membership gift. That brings us up to 6 members on the day. Guys, thank you so much for all of your continued support. It really means a lot. I'm going to add that to the counter. And ironically enough, we're looking at Joel smiling and nodding. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. W's in the chat for Exley and Jake Skew. I got a super chat from Ruben. He says, I disagree on their behavior. They've been doing patrols for 4 years and bringing people into Jackson. Joel got what he wanted, and he got soft. I will say that the one thing that I did play shortly after that section, and I paid even closer attention to it this time, was when Ellie visits Joel's house. And we got Matt Fu. Matt Fu coming in here, dropping another 5 membership gifts, guys. I need to see more W's flowing in the chat for our good friend Matt. He's keeping the membership train rolling. He brings us up to 11 members on the day. So if you were just gifted a membership, keep in mind you're going to have access to not only today's Members Lounge, but all the previous Members Lounge episodes that we've done as well. So Matt, thank you so much for that, man. Thank you to everybody super chatting and gifting memberships. But yeah, Ruben, I will say, when I was exploring Joel's house, I really was like being thorough about it this time. I think the first time around, I kind of quickly went through it to progress the story. But this time I was really paying close attention to all the, the details that are basically telling a story about how Joel was living in Jackson. And I will say, that does make sense, where this idea that he would have... See, here's my thing, though. The difference between softening up and making, like, fundamental mistakes is... I guess there could be a connection there. And so I guess this is where I think it just kind of gets subjective, where it's like, if you think that the way Joel and Tommy behaved in that moment makes sense because, well, they've been doing this for 4 years and they've softened up and they let their guard down, fine. I can accept that. But I can also see why other people would say, that really still doesn't make sense, where these guys are hardened survivors that, granted, maybe they softened up. They've spent literally like half of their life, or at least a third of their life, brutally surviving, knowing full well what this world is like at this point, And so it's like, while you could maybe soften up a little bit, the idea that you would let your guard down so nonchalantly to strangers, I get it. I get it. I can see both sides of it. But in exploring Joel's house in Jackson further, I really like that touch. I will say, for as annoyed as I am at how Naughty Dog decided to, not even how they decided to kill him, but how just basically forcing the character Abby upon us, where it's like, not only is she going to kill a character you love, but now you're going to play as her. For as annoyed as I am about that, what I am appreciating a little bit more this time around is, in exploring his house, seeing like, yeah, he really did just kind of settle in and become... he's living a normal life. I mean, there's a whole room. I missed this the first time, where Joel was apparently carving statues or I think making like statues out of wood. And, there's like a section of his house where there's fishing gear, he's got paintings up and stuff. And I'm like, wow, it's like, I saw like on his nightstand, again, like just kind of paying close attention this time around. There's a book, I guess he was reading, with his reading glasses there, that said like The Idiot's Guide to Space or something. He became domesticated again. Yeah, dude, Joel was fully domesticated, bro. But it was stuff like that I did really appreciate, because it's like it's strange, because on one hand it's like, yeah, Joel's this horrific monstrous killer, but on the other hand it's like I'm walking through the man's house where he lived in Jackson, and it's like, I mean, it's like I could see how if somebody was just meeting him there and seeing him there, they would never guess that he was some kind of like hardened killer, at least at certain points in his life. So it definitely, adds a little bit more depth to Joel's character that we didn't really see in the first game, at least not too much of it. No spoilers on cut content. I didn't even get to the cut content part. We got subtext with the $10 super chat. He says, I don't know, you're acting like there's a nationwide America's Most Wanted on air. They have common names. It's just a greeting to people who saved their lives. They're meeting what look like college kids. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I guess it's tough for me to remove the emotional aspect of it when watching it, where it's like it's like one of those things. It reminds me of my grandmother. My grandmother, when watching TV or movies, would always yell at the TV, and I'd always be like, they can't hear you, Grandma. Like they can't, but she just couldn't help herself. I feel like that's coming out of me when I'm playing this game again, where I'm like, no, what are you guys, idiots? Like, why would you do that? Like that's stupid. You guys are gonna die. Don't you know that? So, on a more lighthearted comedic level, that I guess that's kind of what's coming out of me here, but it's one of these things where, again, rewatching it and re-experiencing it, it is somewhat believable, but there's still just that part of me that's like, I don't know, man. There were just so many. There's just so much lore for Joel and Tommy that it really implies that these guys went through the shit, man. And I think, like, it's almost like, I don't know. I get what you're saying. But I guess it's just when I think about myself, if I had done what Joel had done, dude, I would spend every waking minute of my life going forward. Like, anytime I see somebody I don't know, that could be that could be somebody who's hunting me down. For all I know, that's just me. And that's why I'm just saying it's like knowing human behavior. Especially when it comes to trauma and intense things that people go through or experience, it would be more believable if this was like old Joel. Like, this is 15, 20 years later Joel. Like, he's elder Joel. That would be believable. It's like, okay, the dude's like super old, got totally, like his past just practically forgotten at this point. But 4 years, to me it just sounds kind of unbelievable. It's like, like you committed mass fucking murder on a level that, of course, but I don't know, I guess maybe it's also like, oh, all the Fireflies are wiped out. I don't know. I guess we could kind of go back and forth on it all day if we want it, right? Again, I can see both sides. But I do tend to lean more towards it's pretty unbelievable to me, You're saying this is by far the single most talked about game on the channel. I can't take it anymore. Well, here's what I'll tell you, BB12. Here's what I'll tell you. One of the reasons, so I want to make it clear, I'm not just having this conversation for the sake of having it. We've had that happen before where I've just talked to you guys about it because I want to talk about it. I made a promise to you guys and to myself this year on the channel that I'm going to be playing more games and I'm going to be talking more about them. And I did state that for me, that starts with The Last of Us Part 2. So I don't want anybody to think that tomorrow we're going to talk more about it, and then the day after that, and then the day after that. No, this is a dedicated video or stream, I should say, that I wanted to do specifically dedicated to this remaster. The most I will do going forward after today is a possible final re-review where I've completed the game, maybe I've platinumed it, and then I'll give my final thoughts where it's like, and that's it. And I will probably never play this game again until the PlayStation 6 when we get a remaster or something like that. Or maybe, in the future, in like 2025 when season 2 of the HBO show comes out, maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. But I don't think, listen, man, I've gotten a lot of criticism from people in the past where it's like, you're a PlayStation channel. Shouldn't you be talking about PlayStation? It's like, well, this is PlayStation. Like, this is one of the most PlayStation conversations we can have right now. It's very relevant. So, but I understand where you're coming from, BB12. I have talked about this more so than most people. Probably 99% of people. Naughty Dog lives in my head, bro. They got my head. They live rent-free. But subtext, I do appreciate the super chat, man. We have Random Jabroni, member for 4 months, saying, can someone explain how they knew Joel, Abby, and Tommy were coming with a horde behind them at the ranch, please? That's interesting. Yeah, I don't... Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. I didn't really pay close attention to that moment where they were... Yeah, there was... I guess they maybe... Yeah, luck. That's all. They were. So here's my thought. If I had to truly think of a rational explanation to make it make sense, it's simply that Abby never returned. Because if you remember, like, Abby basically got lost because she told, I think it was Owen, she told him, like, oh yeah, I'll be back there, or here's like, I'll see you back at the lodge. And you have to imagine, like, a significant amount of time went by, a storm was blowing in, and Abby never returned. So my guess is that they were kind of already on a little bit of an alert where it's like, okay, something bad happened to her, and maybe they were just kind of waiting around to see if they could see her arriving. That's my guess. Like, to me, that would make sense, given the context. But yeah, that's lucky. That's lucky for Abby, Joel, and Tommy, because the dude... It's almost, you almost gotta wonder, like, what if they all just died there? Like, there would be no game, there would be no story. They just died in the horde. The Last of Us is a 3-hour game, and that's how it ends. The Last of Us Part 2. Moses, a member for 7 months, says, did you even see the GTA 5 online DLC where Dr. Dre beats a guy with a golf club just like Abby did to Joel? I did not. Holy shit, I had no idea. That's actually crazy. The way you're describing it, the way I'm envisioning it in my head is they actually tried to, like, riff off of The Last of Us Part 2 and kind of not make fun of it, but, reenact it a bit. I'm going to have to look this up, Moses. I had no idea. Naughty Dog's inspiration knows no bounds, clearly. Josh Z, a longtime member, 45 months, you're saying psychological behavior changes based on situation. It's human nature. That's the point of the beginning of the game. If you keep babysitting long enough, it will blow up in your face. Bill to Joel in the first game. Yeah, I hear you. Well, see, here's what I'll say, Josh. Naughty Dog has a great opportunity, in my opinion, with The Last of Us HBO Season 2 to fill in some of these blanks. You know what I mean? Where it's like, look, a portion of your fan base is in disbelief that Tommy and Joel would just find themselves in this situation, and people are having a hard time believing that this is how they would behave. Two long-time survivors in this world. If they really are going to allow Joel to exist in that world longer for season 2 of the HBO series, this would be a great way, I think, to kind of show a different side of Joel more clearly. You know what I mean? Like, just flat out, like this is who he kind of turned into as he got settled into Jackson. And that is a great reference where you're saying this is what Bill said to Joel in the first game. If you keep babysitting long enough, it'll blow up in your face. And I understand that even with the game, they show, Joel fixing up the guitar, playing the song for Ellie, and you know, I just think that if Naughty Dog really wants to, I think, try to thread the needle here, so to speak, a little bit more elegantly, The Last of Us Season 2 HBO series presents a major opportunity for them to speak to the fans that they upset a little bit, and add more context. Add context that maybe not every fan is going to agree with, but that could help, just kind of bridge a gap there, I think. So it remains to be seen if they're going to do that, Josh, but you're not wrong. I get that. Again, we'll see. We'll see if Naughty Dog addresses it. You think they need to change the pacing? Well, I will say, apparently they plan to extend The Last of Us Part 2 into like multiple seasons. Like I think 3 seasons. So they're going to have a lot of room to change certain things, to add certain context, to do more. So Josh, I appreciate that, man. We have, let me see, Kendall Fire 22 with a $5 chat. He says, MBG, please describe how Ellie killed Nora and tell me she's not evil as well. See, this is where which one is Nora again? To be clear, Kendall Fire, I think Ellie is evil. Like, I want to make it clear. Like, I didn't say what I said about Abby to make it seem like Ellie's better. No. If there's one thing that I definitely walked away from The Last of Us Part 2 with, is that, oh yeah, dude, like Ellie's worse than Joel in some ways, man, where it's like, and I get it, like that's kind of the point of all this, is it's just shitty people doing shitty things in the name of either survival or revenge. So I get that. And that, again, it kind of harkens back to what we said earlier, is that this game, it is just showing that Ellie and Abby are two sides of the same coin. There were multiple times in this story where Abby let people go that Ellie cared about when she didn't have to. She could have killed them. And there were times where they didn't. And it's just like, I am curious to see how I feel about when I get to the end of the game again. Devil Shooter says, why are we arguing evil in a lawless world? Well, to be fair, that's my fault. I brought that up. I brought that up earlier when I was talking about, like honestly, when I was talking about how Abby was basically torturing Joel, like wanting to slowly beat him to death. It does make me dislike that character more even than I did before, but it's not like one of these things where it's like, this is unthinkable. Like, no, it's like, yeah, well, yeah, I mean, this is the world, man. Like, people that you're talking about, people who just probably kill on a weekly basis. It's like, this is probably nothing to them. But yeah, dude, Kendall Fire, there are definitely some things in this game, unspeakable things that Ellie does too, where it's like, Jesus, man. This is why I don't know, like I still feel like deep down that The Last of Us Part 2 should have never existed. I still feel that way, man. And I know that there's some people that are like, wow, The Last of Us Part 2 is amazing. 10 out of 10, my favorite game ever. And I get it. Like, again, I am going to have some positive things to say. But it's just, I don't know. The difference between the first game and the second is so insane. Where it's like, God damn. I mean, I guess it makes some kind of sense that this is the direction that the series went in, but sheesh, This, dude, I have a whole nother section of this conversation that we're going to dive into. Ellie and Abby are just nuts. You could argue that that's just this game, man. Like, Joel was nuts. You know, Joel got too attached and he got crazy. Then Ellie got too attached and she got crazy. Abby was already too attached because it was her father and that made her crazy. It's like the world is nuts. You know what I want to see? I want to see in The Last of Us Part 3 a character emerge that's just totally normal. Like, so normal that it's almost unbelievable. Like, how is this person this normal? But like somehow they survived, you know? And then we learn how they survived. I don't know. Maybe that would be probably a really stupid idea. Most boring game ever. So Kendall Fire, I appreciate that. We got Slimothy saying the saddest part of Joel's death is him not knowing what is going to happen to Ellie. In his mind, he's just thinking they're going to kill her. Yeah, that's a good point, man. Because there was that scene where before the final bash to the head that obviously killed him, he showed some sign of life that he was like barely conscious, but he could see Ellie and he couldn't move or talk or anything. That was dude. I gotta say, man, like that was a fucked up scene. Like that scene was it's still. I would have thought that after seeing it like 2 or 3 times by now, or at least like that specific scene, you know, of it actually taking place. I thought it would have been like, dude, my fucking hands were like sweating. I'm like, Jesus, like this is tough, man. Like this is tough. This made like there's not many things that get me like kind of in that zone where it's like, oh, this is brutal, but that's one of them. And you know, it again, I do give Naughty Dog credit in that, you know, very few developers, if any, would have the fucking balls to do something like that. I got like I've always given them that credit where even though I like hate them for it, it's like the fact that they were so fucking brutal about it, where it's like, yeah, this buff chick is gonna beat Joel's skull in and you're just gonna watch. Yeah. And you know what he's gonna do? Nothing. It's like, fuck. Like, and you know what's gonna happen in the first act of the game? It's like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, this is why I really want to watch the behind the scenes making, like the Grounded 2 documentary, because I want to see how vindictive Naughty Dog was behind the scenes. We're like, yeah, yeah. Wait till they see what we are cooking up for them. You're saying which was the intention? It clearly was. I just want to see more of that. You were talking about the psychological aspect. I want to see more of this psychological drive that Naughty Dog had, that Neil Druckmann had, in wanting to do this. I want to know what was really behind it. Was it just the shock value? Did they really believe that this is how we tell the most meaningful story? I want to know. Granted, people were telling me the last time we talked about this to go watch interviews with Kinda Funny, which I have to say I still didn't get around to that. But I'm waiting for the Grounded documentary to come out at this point. You're saying you wonder which one on the Naughty Dog management hated Joel. So I got to say this really quick. Talking briefly about the Grounded mode, I saw people were complaining that Naughty Dog didn't give Joel his own animations in the Grounded mode, that they just reskinned Abby. They just put Joel's skin over Abby. So you have all of Abby's animations. And I'm like, why would you do that? I understand it's probably just to save time. Excuse me. Like it would take too long, but it's like, why would you do that? You're saying MBG, Neil's idea that Bruce shot down is what The Last of Us 2 is, a character who goes across the U.S. seeking revenge. Bruce didn't think it would work. That's fascinating. I don't know where that comes from, but that's actually, maybe we learned that from Neil himself. That's really interesting. I didn't know that. The Zombie Fanatic, you're saying Jimmy C from PS Ready said the PlayStation 6 will be weak. I think you meant to say Dead on Arrival. I doubt that. Well, first off, the PlayStation 6 won't be weak. It'll be a competent console. I don't know that it'll be like as cutting edge as we think. It depends. It really depends on what Sony wants to do with the PlayStation 6. But no, it will not be dead on arrival. The PlayStation 6 will be a success. I don't know that the PlayStation 6 will be as successful as the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. I hope it is. I want it to be. And I think if Sony plays their cards right, it can be. But I do feel confident enough in saying that the PlayStation 6 will have enough momentum behind it that it's not going to be it's not going to be dead on arrival or anything like that. So, yeah, I wouldn't read too much into that, man. I'll be honest. Like, the truth is, right now, nobody really knows what the PlayStation 6 is going to be. No one knows. Sony's still in the process of figuring that out themselves. You're saying Bruce said Neil had some wild ideas he shot down for the first game because they weren't believable? What was Bruce Straley the necessary counterbalance to Neil? Is that what we're going to find out in the end? Zombie Dragon member for 8 months saying, I like playing as Abby, but Abby's just not a likable person. She does a bunch of horrible things to people, and they're just gloss likable person. Yeah, so my whole thing with Abby, I think Neil tried to achieve the impossible with Abby. And when you talk about the idea of like unbelievable ideas kind of getting shot down, there's no way I could ever like Abby as a character. And you know why? Because it's because first impressions mean a lot, right? It's like my first time meeting Abby is just here's a random survivor, part of a group, and within like 2 hours, that character that you just met and even played a little bit as is bashing one of your favorite characters ever to death with a golf club. And I understand it's like, and so now what you're going to do is you're going to go on a journey with this character, and by the end of that journey, you're going to understand that character. Like, I don't fucking care. Yes, Ellie is evil in the sense that she's done evil things, like, again, unspeakable things. I still feel more for Ellie than I do Abby because my first introduction to Ellie was not like this. You know what I mean? Like, my first introduction to Ellie was through Joel and, just some kind of hot-headed, or if not hot-headed, just, no bullshit teenage girl that, you're just like, okay, well, I guess I have to watch over her and protect her as I transport her. And then you go through shit together. And that's why I'm just saying, it's like, to be clear, I don't know if Naughty Dog's intention was to get people to like Abby. I think it kind of was, because if I remember hearing correctly, one of the things that came out with The Last of Us Part 2 leaks is that in testing the game, they discovered that Abby was completely unlikable. Like, to the point where like playtesters were like, we don't want to play as her. And I think one of the things that caused The Last of Us Part 2 to get delayed a little bit is they had to rework the story a little bit or add certain things to try to make Abby a more likable character, or at least enough to where players wouldn't feel that way. And to me, that I don't know that there's anything you could really do. Abby was always going to be the singular most divisive character because of the way she's introduced to the series. It's like, I remember people were trying to say like, well, it's like when Kojima made Raiden the main character of MGS2. Like, yeah, maybe if Raiden bashed Snake's skull in and spit on his corpse, then maybe we could say they're relatable, but they're not. They're totally different. Snake died in MGS2 supposedly in a tanker incident that Raiden had nothing to do with. You know what I mean? So it's just they're not comparable. I just remember people were trying to make those comparisons. It's like, come on. Come on now. You will not accept any Raiden slander. No, I think Raiden turned out to be a pretty good character, ultimately. Hey, he got his own game in Rising, right? But yeah, that's the thing is I don't think I think the problem with the story of The Last of Us Part 2 is that it it's like you have two characters that are this, just two sides of the same coin. Ellie and Abby, survivors who have a grudge and want revenge and are doing unspeakable things in the name of that. But I was like, for me, I was always going to side with Ellie, no matter what, because I played her journey. I was there on her, you know what I mean? In The Last of Us Part 1. And I think that's where The Last of Us Part 2 falls flat, because I remember, and I'll replay it and I'll let you know, but I remember, there's certain segments of this game where they do flashbacks where you're playing as young Abby, and it's so fucking cringe to me. Like, I remember playing this where they make Abby's father seem like the nicest guy on the planet, like the opposite of Joel, and they just try to really paint these people as like these are really good people, and it's like, no one, this is so stupid, this is dumb, because I like, no amount of you showing me this now doesn't mean anything to me. If you showed this to me before that climactic moment, maybe I'd feel differently. But I don't know. It's to me, sometimes it kind of comes off as a big mess. I know that sounds brutal. I'm not saying that necessarily makes it that bad, but the story of The Last of Us Part 2 at certain times, it feels like it's just a giant fucking mess. Where it's like, what the hell is going on? Where it's not hard to follow. It's just there's so much jumping around. And here's the important thing. If you compare that to the first story, it's just, they're not even comparable on that level, where the first story doesn't do that. There's one time where that happens, and that's in the intro of the game, and it's to set up context. It's to immediately set up context for the main character. Again, man, I want to say this too. When we do get season 2 of The Last of Us HBO, I'm going to be paying close attention to just how many things Naughty Dog changes or Neil changes with this story, because one of two things is going to happen. There's going to be massive changes that confirm, oh yeah, I think they realize this didn't land as smoothly as you thought it would. Or there's going to be minimal changes, and it's going to be that, no, Naughty Dog is still they're sticking with the story they made, man. That's their story, and they're not changing it. I'll be very interested to see what they change and how they change it. They're saying they had to show Abby's trauma from before. I know that. I just think it's too much at once. I'm beginning to think that Naughty Dog I think Naughty Dog's downfall under Neil Druckmann, if they do end up having a downfall, which I don't know. Some people already feel like they've already, fallen off, but I don't believe that fully. But it's like, if in the end, if another 5 years from now it turns out Naughty Dog's just a laughing stock, I don't think they will be. But it's like, if it really comes down to that, and you guys will know what I mean by this when we talk about another topic regarding Naughty Dog in a little bit, I'm almost beginning to wonder if they're just becoming too ambitious for their own good. You know what I mean? Where it's like, everything they do now, they feel like they have to just take things to another level, when in reality, it's like, guys, you're gonna end up falling completely off by being overly ambitious over and over again and overextending your reach. And I get that that's an inherent fear for any prestigious creator or studio, where it's like, did I peak? Did I peak? I'll tell you right now, if your peak is The Last of Us 1, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. You can create games that are incredible, and they don't have to match The Last of Us 1. They don't have to outdo The Last of Us 1. You know, like that's a tall order. That good luck to anybody who tries to do that. I don't know. Just a thought. Just a thought. Uh, Subtext again, you're saying we should consider Tommy introduces them. And I can't think of any time when Tommy wasn't friendly, even in the first game. Rhea was the cautious one. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point, Subtext. I will say that's a good point. Because, you know, I am talking about Joel and Tommy together. And you know what? Yeah, to be fair, for all we know, maybe Joel was thinking, is this guy serious? I mean, they don't like give us that notion, right? But you are correct in that Tommy was seemingly always the friendly one. And this is why this is where I'm saying, like, maybe they could add a little bit more to that scene in the HBO season 2, where it's like maybe Joel kind of like gives him a look like, are you kidding me? And Tommy's like, oops, you know, or just a little something that gives us a better idea that maybe Joel was like, wow, okay, like, come on, Tommy, like you got to be smarter than that. Where and maybe kind of paint Tom, because that's true. Tommy always was kind of like the more friendly one. And to be fair, when they talk about Joel and the hunters, they did make it clear in the first game that Tommy struggled with that. Like Joel was the one who had to basically keep Tommy alive, you know, and Joel was the one who was doing the, I guess you could say, most of the dirty work. And you know, a lot of people said that it would be great to get a prequel game starring Joel and Tommy and how they survived. And I agree, like, dude, that would be amazing. But that'll never happen, unfortunately. But I've always kind of wondered about that. So good point, Subtext. Good point. Ghost 88 says, stop crying, MBG. Well, I'm not crying, man. Come on, you don't appreciate the conversation? I feel like even if you don't agree with my takes, it's an interesting conversation to have, right? I don't think anybody's crying here. I think it's just a matter of, you know, once again, revisiting this very divisive story and very divisive game and trying to unpack it. Leo Jimmy with a $20 super chat. Leo, I appreciate it, man. You're saying here, MBG money, you bring back memories. My whole attitude when I crossed over Abby was, I don't care. Dude with the hat, guy that spits on Joel, chick that killed Joel. I only played to get back to Ellie, to smoke Abby. Hey, man, everybody has their reasons, Leo. And yeah, that was so bad, dude. That scene, I'll tell you, man. That scene changed everything. It really did. And I think I wanted to ask you guys, like, when we look back to 2020, when the leaks came out for The Last of Us Part 2, one of the things I remember people kept saying is they were like, listen, man, everybody's hating on Naughty Dog and this new character, Abby, too quickly because it's lacking context. We're missing all the context. And I guess I just kind of have a question, like, how do we feel about that now? Like, you know, we're 3 years removed from the game being out. We have all the context that came with the game. Some of us are replaying it now and getting that context once again. And it's like, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to ask is if there's anybody here who felt, based on the leaks, that they weren't going to enjoy the game and they knew they were going to hate it. And then they played it, they got the full context, and it just like completely changed their mind on it. You're saying context made it even worse. Saying context barely changed anything. You're barely replaying and skipping the cutscenes because you don't care anymore. To me, that's the craziest part. The context made things worse. Oh my god. You're saying, yet you loved Abby. She was a beast. You know, my whole thing with Abby as a character, I think, all right, hold on. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I'm going to ask another question. I'm going to be very careful because I'm not trying to get into this territory, but I'm just curious what people think. There's a belief that, well, to be fair, it's not a belief with Naughty Dog. It was confirmed by Neil himself that there's an agenda behind The Last of Us, behind Naughty Dog. I mean, Neil did a whole talk about how he was inspired by Anita Sarkeesian, of all fucking people, and influenced by her, and that this was his secret agenda with The Last of Us. So when we consider that, many people look at a character like Abby and say, there's an agenda. This character, Abby, represents the agenda, the Neil Druckmann agenda. My question is, do you believe that? Like, is that how we feel about Abby? Like, is there an agenda behind this character? I'll give my opinion on it, but I'm just curious to see what you guys have to say. And Leo, Jimmy, dude, thank you for the super chat, man. Am I trolling? No. To be clear, that's a real thing. I could look it up. I'm not going to look it up right now, but no, Neil Druckmann, he gave a presentation. I think that, I forget what year it was. I don't know if it was like 2013 or 14, but he literally referenced and thanked Anita Sarkeesian, and he explained that there was an agenda behind The Last of Us and the creation of it, and a character like Ellie and the series itself. King Luffy says, I saw that interview, 100% real. I think it's fascinating that Neil was willing to just admit that, like, straight up to everybody. Saying Neil was being a simp and knows who to cater to. I saw that presentation too. Neil is a feminist to the point where he's overcompensating. B. Flesher says, I didn't have to know that, bro. Well, to be fair, I think it's fine in the context of The Last of Us 1, because I think The Last of Us 1 is perfectly executed. In that to me, that's the right way to do it. Like, whatever I don't have to know what your agenda is. Like, if your agenda as a creator secretly, like, I want to make people, like, really enjoy and relate to a gay, gay female character. And you could kind of understand where it's like, well, this is going to push boundaries, right? This is going to break new ground in the gaming medium. But the thing is, it was handled perfectly with the first game, where it's like, it was natural. And you like, when The Last of Us 1 was made, people were no one felt forced to like Ellie. No one. When I say boundaries, I'm saying, like, that's probably their mentality going into it, like, we're going to do something like that. And I'm saying, like, no one felt forced or like they were being asked, like, you guys like this character, right? Like, you definitely got to like this character. And to me, this is the whole problem with the whole woke Hollywood thing today, where it's like, the biggest problem that these writers and these creators don't seem to understand is, if you try to, the more you force it, the worse it's going to be. You're never going to force people to like characters. You have to let people like characters by making them feel relatable, by making them feel likable naturally. You need to create characters that if you were to meet this character in real life and have a conversation with them, you wouldn't walk away being like, oh my God, that person's fucking annoying. Like, and when you think about The Last of Us 1, that's what they achieved. Where you realize, like, these characters are not perfect. Ellie's not perfect. Joel's not perfect. None of these characters are. Tess isn't perfect, Bill isn't perfect. But they're handled with care and with nuance that makes it so that nothing super hyper specific has to happen. Like, no one specific thing has to happen to make you love or hate that character. It's a culmination of the different things, both good and bad, that the character goes through. And I think that is what ruined Abby as a character, no matter what. And that's why I'm saying, like, the agenda behind a character like Abby is so painfully clear and shoved in your face from the first act of the game that it's like, any chance there would have been for me to enjoy this character, you just destroyed it. Like there's like it doesn't matter what you do now. You know? Like you had one chance, you know, the first impression, and you just decimated it, literally. And I think that's kind of sad because I don't know, man. I really am beginning to think that Neil Druckmann needed Bruce Straley. I just can't help but wonder how a character like Abby would have been handled if Bruce Straley was there. You know what I mean? How different would it have been executed? You got to wonder. You really got to wonder. Or even Amy Hennig, for that matter. Although, I don't know. Amy Hennig, I don't know if she had anything I don't think she had anything to do with The Last of Us. And we got Corey, the legend Landiga, coming in out of nowhere, dropping a 10 bomb on us. Corey, thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for continually doling out some membership gifts for the community. Corey gets us up to 21 members, just like that. So we are just 4 away from hitting the goal. Let's get some W's flowing in the chat for Corey. Good stuff, man. Thank you, Corey. You're saying Bruce was there for all the classics, Uncharted 2, 3, 4, and The Last of Us 1. And we got Exley Trismegistus coming in, following up our man Corey with another 5 memberships gifted. Exley, thank you so much, my friend. Exley crushes the goal and brings us up to 26 members. Good stuff, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate that. I'm going to play Joel.
No matter what, you keep finding something to fight
Boss
for.
is like, you owe me some snacks. I'll do it. I'll give Boss some snacks. I owe him some. You guys crushed the goal. Let me update the goal. I still have super chats to go over. I'm going to get to them in just a moment. Appreciate you guys hanging with me. By the way, do me a favor, guys. Hit that like button. Even if you don't fully agree with my takes or my opinions, I'd really appreciate if you could hit the like button because it helps the streams. It lets me know that you guys enjoy the streams, that you like tuning in. I'd really appreciate that. Add that there, and there we go. What the hell was that? Boss, did you just knock something over? Boss, come here. I got to give you some snacks. Got to give you some treats. 26 members. Really appreciate it, guys. Boss. All right, I'm going to give Boss some of these snacks since we hit the goal, okay? He's been waiting in case you can't tell. There you go. If we hit another goal today, I'll give him some more snacks, all right? But Boss has been eagerly awaiting those snacks, bro. Let me tell you. So thank you guys for the membership gifts. We also have Ruben with a $5 chat saying, unrelated, you should really get a 120 hertz TV. Got one last year, and being able to play games at 40 FPS or up to 120 FPS is genuinely game changing. So actually, I do have a TV that is capable of 120 hertz and 40 FPS modes, and I do play some games like that sometimes. Like when I was playing Spider-Man 2, it's the TV in my living room, which, you know, I play on that TV sometimes. A lot of times I don't because, you know, me and Mrs. MBG, we game together, and that's, you know, that's her spot, and I play in here. But I played Spider-Man 2 at the 120 hertz mode, and the 40 FPS mode was incredible. You know, like more games that can bring out a 40 FPS mode that can sometimes go above 40 FPS while basically maintaining those fidelity level graphics, you know, and not the performance mode. Really, really nice experience. Did Mrs. MBG start Cyberpunk? No, actually, I think I'm gonna buy that game for her. Mrs. MBG wants to play Cyberpunk, which was a little bit surprising to me. Like I wasn't expecting that. So I gotta pick that game up for her. We're gonna try to play me and Mrs. MBG might try Foam Stars together. She thinks it looks somewhat fun. I mean, you guys, Foam Stars, I'm like, well, okay. It's free on PlayStation Plus. All right, maybe we'll give it a shot. But But I think we're gonna also try to play Helldivers 2 together. I'm pretty excited for Helldivers 2. I want to see if she'll be able to get into that. Maybe we'll, I don't know. Maybe we could stream it together or something like that. Saying try Pal World, dude. Oh my god, what Pal World? It's so funny. I just want to say real quick. We're gonna go a little bit off topic for a moment. Last week we did a stream here, and I titled it like PlayStation exclusives versus Xbox exclusives. Just kind of comparing the lineup. And I remember when I was going over the lists, you guys were telling me like, "Yo, you're forgetting Pal World, MBG. Don't forget Pal World." I'm like, okay, Pal. I don't know what that is, but okay, I'll put that on the Xbox side. Oh my god, dude. Sony is crying, dude. You know Sony is on suicide watch right now. I'm sorry, bro, but like Sony is out here desperately trying to secure games that they think are going to be hit live service titles. And Microsoft is like, yeah, you guys can release Pal World in early access on Xbox. We'll take that as an exclusive. And it's fucking destroyed. Dude, it is like, yeah, it's breaking records on Steam. You're saying it's the biggest paid game on Steam on Steam of all time. Sony is crying right now, dude. I genuinely feel sorry for Sony. Where it's like, man, you guys can't catch a break. Sony can't catch a break in this area where they're so desperate. We need just one game, and it's like, I've heard that. Yeah, I heard people saying that you really should play it on PC if you're going to play it because it's just really kind of struggling on Xbox. So, and that's the thing too, is like, I don't know if it's exclusive to Xbox because it's early access. I know Sony doesn't allow early access on the PlayStation console. So I guess there is the chance that it could eventually come to PlayStation, but I'll tell you, Sony's definitely Sony's definitely on the phone trying to figure out, yo, is this game going to come to PlayStation when it's done? Like when it's fully finished? But yeah, I couldn't believe that. And it's funny because people are talking about Nintendo with this game and like how this is such a massive missed opportunity for Nintendo, where of course Nintendo's never going to make Pokemon with guns, but people have been crying out for years that like Nintendo should consider releasing Pokemon for PC. It would do really well. And this is the closest thing we've seen to that. It's Pokemon with guns, so it's different, but you know, there's also some controversy being generated around this game, where I did see that like VGC was reporting that apparently there's like some AI generative content or the creator of the game is like getting backlash for his take on AI in game development and whatnot. And I'll be honest, like I haven't been paying much attention to it, but I've just kind of been scrolling past some of these things, and it's like, well, I don't know, maybe Pal World, I don't know if it has any AI made or generated like characters, or if some of the game was made with AI. I don't know, but if it's true, if there's something relating to AI with this game, this could be the first game that really kind of kicks the door open to that wider conversation, and like seeing like, how do people really feel about this? You know, like, are people actually okay with this or not? From what I can tell, no one cares. You're saying it's not confirmed though? Okay. Well, I'll tell you right now, it seems to me like no one cares. Regardless, like whether it's true or not, it just, because the game is like on some kind of unstoppable, you know, roll here. Apparently, like Epic Games is having like emergency meetings over this game, dude. Where like Epic Games feels threatened. Dude, Epic feels like Fortnite is threatened by Pal World. Think about that. It's like, what is happening, man? I could totally get it. I totally get it though. Like a game like Pal World being an overnight success and just like mega hit, not shocking. Cause it's like, dude, what's the pitch? Pokemon with guns. Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go. That's Nintendo, you dropped the ball. You dropped the ball here, Nintendo. Watch Pal World. Watch Pal World become more successful than Fortnite and Pokemon. Well, maybe it couldn't be more successful than Pokemon, but more successful than Fortnite. And Nintendo's actually seriously contemplating, should we do it? Like, should we do it? Should we just pull the trigger? Pun intended. Saying Pal World is a big W for Xbox. It seems like it, yeah. I imagine Microsoft is on the phone trying to figure out, like, can we negotiate another contract with you guys or something? But on Steam anyway, it's murdering. So you'd love to see Fortnite fail. I mean, I don't think Fortnite will fail, but it's like you do have to ask yourself, how long can Fortnite stay at the top before something knocks it down to where it's not the number one game anymore. But yeah, so funny, man. I was seriously laughing when I saw this because I was like, holy shit, this is that game that people in my chat were telling me last week. Like, yo, you forgot to put this on the list. And it's like going to be the most successful game of the year. Wild times, man. It just goes, if anything, this goes to show how, like, you can't really blame developers, like publishers, for trying to experiment, because stuff like this happens, dude, where it's just like, if you would have asked me last week, is Pal World going to, like, break records and be like the number one game and just explode? I would have said, well, probably not. I said maybe it'll do well, but I would have never thought it would have done anything like this. And I don't think the developers thought that either. I don't think anybody saw this coming. And so it just goes to show that developers, even Sony, you know, all these publishers and developers, they have to be willing to try to come up with these ideas and throw it out there and see, like, could this be the next big thing? Because I'll tell you, right now, as we speak, multiple video game publishers are saying, come on, get our own Pal World greenlit right now. We need to make our own Pokemon with guns right now. Something like it. That's absolutely happening. Sony's probably doing it right now. That's probably what Naughty Dog's working on. They're like, Naughty Dog, listen, you guys have some experience. Or maybe not Naughty, it's Bungie. They're like, yo, Bungie, forget that marathon game. We want you to make that. Oh, man. Anyway, had to go on that little side path there. Let me see. We got... So, Ruben, thank you for the super chat. We got subtext with 2 super chats here saying, regardless... So, getting back into the conversation about The Last of Us, he says, regardless of how he died, what I like is how it ends on Ellie forgiving Joel. The story seems to center around her regret for not forgiving him, but it's her regret for not forgiving sooner. It doesn't demonize Joel or his choices in the long run. It celebrates him. So this to me is where I feel like I have trouble communicating with some Last of Us fans, because I agree with what you're saying, subtext. I think it's hard to see it that way for some people, but even though I would have absolutely loved to see Naughty Dog do something different with Joel than what they did here, like, I really would have liked to see a different story, but with Joel and Ellie, and even Abby, if you want to, you know, have her as part of the game. I ultimately have come to the conclusion that the game does not demonize Joel. And I think people need to try to see that and realize that yeah, they give him a shitty send-off, like, physically. Like, I mean, they decimate him, you know? But when you play the game till the end, you realize that, if anything, like, Joel is... He, you know, they do pay their respects to Joel in the sense that they show that he is a human being, that he's not a monster, that he's just basically, like, when he doesn't have to fight for survival or fight for Ellie, he's just like a dad, you know? And I really did appreciate that. I really did, because it's like, that is that is the part of Joel that I think, if you think about it, like, everybody got attached to immediately. Like, when you think about the opening of The Last of Us 1, like, you immediately are attached to a character like Joel because you just experienced the most life-altering event of his life, you know? And so it's like I see how people talk about the way Naughty Dog handled Joel, where they're like, they disrespected his character and they destroyed his character. And it's like, listen, they definitely did a number on Joel in this game in an unexpected way. But I really do think that if you play through the game and you pay close attention to the moments where, because there are flashbacks that basically anytime after Joel dies, anytime he shows up in the game, it's in a flashback. And, you know, like to me, one of the parts of this game that does stand out to me as like a, okay, I hate that this is how Joel's journey had to end, but I do appreciate this part. And that is at the end when he's talking to Ellie on the porch and he's just like, if God gave me another chance, like I'd do it all over the same way. Like, it just reveals that, like, you know, not that he's a shitty person. Like, he's not saying like, oh yeah, I just like murdering. He's just like, no, like, you know, I look at you as like my daughter and I love you and I would sacrifice the world for you. And to me, that's like, okay, that is how I always view Joel's character. As in, like, when we talk about was Joel right? Was Joel right? I mean, dude, I asked this question on Twitter, and believe me, it's a question that will be asked, I think, till the end of time. Was Joel right? And it's everybody has their own opinion on it. My opinion is Joel was right. Because he did what he was always going to do, what any father, frankly, or any parent, I think, would do. And it's especially a parent that loses a child the way Joel did. And this is where, like, I think truth, like, when I really whittle it down, right? Because God knows I've been talking about this series and this game for years, right? Still talking about it now. I don't love or hate The Last of Us Part 2. Like, as I'm replaying it and I'm realizing, like, the conversation, you know, people are saying, like, dude, we've already had these conversations. I get that. Like, it is old. It is tired. And as time goes on, I begin to realize I don't love or hate this game. I just ultimately wish, like, my wish for The Last of Us sequel, I don't know if you guys remember or how many of you were here, but back in 2019, when we were building up to this game, holy shit, my hype levels were uncontainable, man. Like, I was so excited for this game. I don't know how many of you were here for that, but I was making videos constantly on this game. I could not stop getting excited for this game. And every time Naughty Dog talked about it, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be the greatest fucking video game ever made. And I think it was. And the reason I thought that was because in my mind, based off of everything I had seen, I knew Ellie was going to be the new main, like, playable character. I thought that what we were going to get in the sequel was another Joel and Ellie journey where maybe Ellie takes more of a center stage, but it's still that dynamic between these two characters. And so knowing that was my expectation going into the game, like, that's absolutely what I wanted. And that's absolutely what I believed and thought we were getting based off of all the marketing. Guys, I'll never forget. I swear, if there's one thing I will never forgive Naughty Dog for, it's this. It's not what they did to Joel. It's not The Last of Us Part 2. It's the marketing when they put Joel in that fucking trailer when he was like, you didn't think I'd let you do this alone, did you? You know? And actually, it was Jesse. They pulled one over on us where they deceived us. That to me is what did me in. Where I was like, guys, I hate you for that. Like, you told me, like, dude, you told me Joel was gonna be part of this, man. Like, he was gonna be part of Ellie's journey. You told me that. And you lied. You fucking lied. Like, I will never forgive Naughty Dog for that, man, because that was That is what made me go, like, I fucking lost it, dude. I was like, I was like, this can't be real. This can't be happening. It was insane. It was an insane time because I'll never forget. I will never forget the level of hype I had for this game and what I expected going into it, and how Naughty Dog basically took a golf club to my fucking expectations, dude. That golf club wasn't just bashing in a fictional character's skull, dude. That was my hopes and dreams. But I mean, it's funny to kind of laugh at in retrospect now and just, look at it in a more lighthearted way. But it really was kind of soul crushing at the time, where I'm like, I just couldn't. It's still difficult to believe that they pulled that off in that way, where it's like, I can't believe you. So I just want to say it's what it boils down to for me. And I probably will talk about The Last of Us 2 at least one more time thoroughly when I complete the game in full again. But I think what's easier for me while playing the remastered version this time around, what's easier for me is because I already went through it. I know what to expect. It's like, I don't know. It's just easier for me to accept, I guess you could say, that this is what they did. Like, this is the game. Whatever the version of The Last of Us Part 2 is that I had in my mind the first time around, and realized that that's not at all what you're getting, dude. Like, not even close. It took, like, basically this long for me to kind of accept, like, all right, well, that's not what they chose to do. You're saying in real life you would hate Joel for not saving humanity? I mean, I understand that too. Like, I don't look down on anybody or think somebody's wrong necessarily for saying Joel did the wrong thing. I understand that, like, there are people who are like, yeah, I would sacrifice Ellie in the name of the human race, like, to save all of humanity. I get that too. To me, this is one of those things. I know it's not a popular stance to take, but I do understand both sides. I have my own side that I choose, but I can easily see why somebody else would be like, no, we have to try to save humanity here. It's one life for potentially billions, right? Or millions. So I get it. But I totally understand the idea of, like, bro, humanity's cooked, and I just want to live my last days happy with my surrogate daughter. Like, I totally get that too. It's like, yep, I can't blame you. Humanity has had a good run. I will say what I'm liking right now is I do enjoy this. I do. Like, I enjoy how much conversation can be had around this one game. For better or for worse. I did at least enjoy that, You could call The Last of Us 2, I think, a lot of things, but one thing I feel like I certainly can't call it is uninteresting or a game that doesn't warrant much conversation. Certainly not for me. Naughty Dog should make a Pal World meets Last of Us game. There you go. Now that's a $1 billion idea right there. So subtext, I appreciate that. We have Waleed is now a game cat, specifically a white tiger. He says, I might get the $10 upgrade later. Currently, so many PSVR 2 games to play. MBG, once the lake opens up in RE4, it's a mind-blowing view on PSVR 2 at night. Yeah, I'm going to have to see if I can get back into playing Resident Evil 4 for VR, because I got really into it for like a couple weeks there, and then I kind of, I started playing other stuff. I got basically Lies of P is what totally derailed me. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, though, because, dude, like, I want to complete The Last of Us Part 2. I do want to platinum it, because I was looking over the first time I played it, and I was actually not far off from the platinum. Like, I just had to go get a couple collectibles, basically. So I guess I didn't do it back then, because I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm done playing this. This time around, though, I might just platinum it, and I think that's where I'll lay The Last of Us Part 2 to rest until maybe the HBO series season 2 comes out. But I appreciate you letting me know, man. And yeah, I'll let you know if I end up returning to it. We have Matt York, longtime member for 23 months, saying The Last of Us 3, Ellie gets killed at the start of The Last of Us 3 and you control Dina in a daisy chain revenge story. Yeah, dude. I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit. I do want to talk a little bit more. I have more to say about Naughty Dog as a studio. Okay. I'm almost finished with my Last of Us 2 impressions. Obviously, I was always going to get sucked in talking about the story, but we're almost done with that. Hellbound 1981, another legend, comes in and drops 5 more membership gifts for the community. Hellbound, my friend, thank you so much. And then we have Hey, It's Andre coming in, dropping 5 more membership gifts. Guys, I want to see W's in the chat for Hey, It's Andre and Hellbound. Hellbound always doling out gifts. Hey, it's Andre. I don't know if this is your first time dropping membership gifts, man, but it seems like it is, from what I can tell. So thank you so much for that, man. That's incredible to see. That's awesome to see. So let me add that to the counter.
Thank you.
Give you guys a thank you for that.
It.
I'm not sure where Boss went, though. I was just looking because I wanted to make sure he finished his treats. He did. So we're now at 36 members. That's basically a 10 bomb you guys dropped. I'm going to add that to the counter. So again, just as a reminder, I'm going to keep saying this because I get new people flowing in. We are doing a members lounge after today's episode. Okay. So if you are a member or if you just got gifted a membership, be sure to tune into that. He finished his treats. Now he has room for more wires. No, so the new thing with Boss is he's not chewing the wires anymore, thank God. But I bought a new humidifier for the living room. You know, because when it gets really cold like this, the air gets really dry, and I've been running that. And oh man, I got to always keep an eye on him because he tries to attack it. He does. He the bubbles freak him out. He thinks it's like a threat or something he's supposed to hunt, and I have to keep an eye on him from not knocking it over. We got Corey the Legend Landiga comes in and just drops a 10 bomb on us like it's nothing. Corey coming in with 10 more membership gifts. W's flowing in the chat. Corey wants to see some reps. That's clearly what he wants. He wants to see some reps. He brings us up to 46 members on the day. Guys, we are 4 members away from hitting a second goal. You guys are insane. Thank you so much, Corey. Thank you to everybody showing support. It's amazing to be able to put together streams like this, talking about games, talking about The Last of Us Part 2 again. And you guys are showing such amazing support, seriously. And we have Michael Cintron. Michael comes in and drops not just 4 more membership gifts. He drops 10 more membership gifts for us. Michael does it. Michael takes it home. He brings us up to 56 members on the day. Absolutely crushes it. Full-blown membership train going right now. You know what time it is. I got to update the member goal. And I owe you guys some reps. I do. I owe you guys some reps. I'm going to have to give Boss more treats, too. I'll do both. We'll go crazy. But seriously, thank you guys so much. Let me update this here. We're at 56 members. Huge day. Boss, where'd you go? You want some more? I know you're in here. Come on. All right, I'm gonna give Boss some treats. I'm gonna do some reps, and we're gonna get back into the conversation. All right, let's go. There we go. Wait, hold on. I think I have it muted. There we go. We're gonna do some curls. You guys are cool with that. I'm trying to work on the biceps a little bit. I'm gonna do 56 curls for 56 members. This is the stream. This is what we do. I don't know how many are new right now, but Dude, boss is looking at me like, what are you doing? You just lift joints? The Last of Us 2. What did they do to Joel? I gotta get buffer than Abby. The only way. Feeling pretty good though. Oh, so I heard that, man. Do some overhead tricep extensions. Woo. Right. I have to, I'll readjust my camera next time so you can get a better angle, but wow, me and Boss finished at the same time. There you go, man. That's for crushing 50 members gifted today, 56. I don't know how many reps I did. You hope I'm doing 25 to 30 reps with that light ass weight. It's 25 pounds, man. The thing is, I could easily do 25 to 30 reps, but it's like that with 25 pounds, you'll get pretty damn close to failure, or you will get to failure. You know, it's not like they're 10 pounds or 5 pounds. Chest up, MBG, keep good form. I try my best to keep good form. It can be tough because that's the only problem, man. Like, I have to... Eventually, I'm going to figure out how to get more space here. I want to get to a point where I can just straight up do some fucking, like, deadlifts or something. Or not deadlifts, but, you know, just do some serious exercising. I could bring up my 50-pound dumbbells, but... I know, I'm telling you, like, it's just, there's, I don't know if what you guys see on camera, it might be somewhat deceptive. Like, there's really not a lot of space where I'm at. Bringing up the 50 pounds, I'm going to destroy something. Or, you know, God forbid, like, hurt Boss accidentally or some shit like that. But when it comes to doing the overhead tricep extensions, dude, I would guarantee you I'm going to smash my head. Knock myself out on stream. You're just going to see me sitting knocked out in my chair or on the ground. But hope you guys enjoyed that. I know Boss enjoyed his treats. Actually, you know what? I think I gave him a little too much. I'm going to have to put these back. He didn't even finish all of them. That's how I know I gave him too much. I didn't feed him yet today, though, so. All right. Where do I work out normally? I usually work out in my basement. It's been a while since I've went to the gym, but I still have a gym membership. I haven't gone in a while. I might start going again. At this point, I don't need to. I just keep streaming and I'll get jacked that way. Like no joke, for those who've been tuning into the streams regularly, I've been doing dumbbell presses, like overhead dumbbell presses, which work your shoulders. I've seen a slight difference in my shoulders already because I've been doing them like a lot more than I normally do. So thank you guys. Seriously, you're helping me get in better shape too. But the goal is we got to get buffer than Abby. All right, let me get back on track here. Guys, do me a favor. Hit that like button to help the stream out. We got Mepsic with a $10 super chat, and he says, I could accept the story up until Ellie goes to Santa Barbara and losing everything after. It's stuff like that where I feel like the writers just wanted to take everything from the main characters. Yeah, I'm looking forward to replaying that part again because I'll be honest, like, again, the first time around playing it, I was so burnt out by the time I got to that point. I wasn't rushing the game. It's just, it was like overkill. You know, this is one of those games where I'm telling you, I'm realizing now that it wasn't until this point where I know the story, I know all the major beats, nothing can surprise me. I can actually just focus much more on all the little details in the game that I think I just missed the first time around, including the gameplay. I always love the gameplay of The Last of Us, but I can't deny that the story was so heavy and so depressing. And it's a long game too. Like, it's like a 30-hour game just to beat the main story. it's just I remember there were multiple parts where I'm just like, all right, I just want to get through this and beat this game. But that was because again, the story beats were so like, oh man, and I'm over that now. Even though it may not seem like it, I am over that now. And that helps me segue into the next part of this conversation, which is I can't give my full impressions until I talk about the gameplay. All right, and I have a couple things to say about the gameplay. But Mepsic, I get what you're saying. That was pretty extreme. And that's a part in particular with the story that when I get to it again, I'm gonna pay closer attention to it and see if I feel similarly to how you do here. And Mepsic, you have another chat that says, I could accept the story up until... Oops, hold on. Yeah, no, that's a second super chat. Mepsic, you also said, I could accept the story up until Ellie goes to Santa Barbara and losing everything after. It's overkill. You know, Mrs. MBG watched me play The Last of Us Part 2, and this game upset her a lot. Like, she likes Ellie as a character a lot, and she was very... Even now, like, when she saw that I was replaying it, she, like, couldn't help herself but go on a little Mrs. MBG rant and was like, I just still can't believe they did this to Ellie, and they let, like... She specifically focuses at the very end of the game when Ellie can't even play the guitar anymore. How, like, you know, she was just like, I can't accept that they did that to her. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It's so bad. Like, it's terrible what happened. The state that Ellie's left in. But yeah, well, to be clear, there will be spoilers. Okay. You're saying you're just kidding. Well, obviously, yeah, there's going to be spoilers. I probably should have said that earlier. But we have Walita's now a game cat, specifically White Tiger, saying, if Joel is killed due to woke agenda, not good, but at least this doesn't seem forced / unnatural. Here it moves the story forward. The Last of Us HBO I didn't like. So I agree that Abby as a character, from what I can tell, like, again, I have to, I'm going to be trying to pay closer attention to some of the different aspects of Abby as a character this time around. Because I feel like the first time I played The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, I just constantly was rolling my eyes at Abby. I'm going to try not to be that way this time and actually just pay attention to all the things she's saying and doing, like, a little bit more closely. Because I don't know, like, do you consider Abby a woke character? Because for me, if there's any woke aspect, if you want to use that term woke, if there's any woke aspect of Abby, to me it's her, it's more in literally her appearance than anything. And maybe her demeanor a little bit. Like, but the demeanor, I don't consider that woke. Like, we've seen strong female characters plenty of times, and I don't consider strong female characters woke characters. I think there's kind of an outcry in 2024, and there has been, for, like, naturally written strong female characters that don't feel ridiculously forced or over the top. You know, like, strong female characters that are not, like, rubbing it in your face. Like, that's right, I'm a female and I'm strong. I'm stronger than you. You know, like, not that bullshit. Like, just a strong character that happens to have female genitalia. It's like, that's all you need to do. You know, it's, for me, it comes down to, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but when I first see Abby in that scene, when she takes her jacket off and she's in that tighter fitting shirt, and you're like, holy shit. You know, like, oh my God, dude, she is jacked. My problem with this is that it's not, and I know this is going to be controversial for some people. There are muscular women. There's nothing, Devil Shooter, you're saying you've seen women that look exactly like Abby. I have never seen a woman who is not on some type of something get that muscular naturally. I'm just being honest. I'm not saying that it's not their fault. Like, it's just biology. It's literally biology. It's hormonal biology. I don't make the rules. I didn't make it that way. I've never seen a woman get that jacked naturally. Like, dude, do you see her triceps? She was bulking. Dude, I mean, look, maybe it's possible. I'm not saying that there aren't women out there that can get that jacked naturally, but like most of the women that I've seen on the internet anyway that have a physique like that are on Anavar and who knows what else. Because they have to be. Like their muscles literally cannot naturally get that large. Just like it reminds me of like really buff male characters in games. Yeah, exactly. It's like when you see really buff, like, let's be honest, you look at Kratos, dude, he's a god, so he has an excuse, but good luck getting that type of physique naturally and maintaining it. Maybe if you have the absolute best genetics in the world, 99% of people are going to need some type of enhancement to get that jacked and stay that jacked consistently. Don't get me wrong. They're like men, there are men that I've seen achieve a really good natural peak. And Kratos doesn't look ridiculous either, by the way. Kratos doesn't look like a fucking, juiced up, roided out bodybuilder. He does look, he's like borderline where it's like, okay, a real human male with the best of genetics after like 20 plus years of training could probably achieve that. But they have to have the best genetics. But most people naturally could not achieve that. And it would be very hard, especially with how lean he is. It'd be very hard. But Kratos is a god. But putting Kratos aside, like, you see it all the time. You're saying Abby's not that. No, Abby's not Kratos huge. No. Abby's not that huge. That would be, I mean, fucking A, dude. That would be ridiculous. Kratos looks like a linebacker. I think Kratos looks a little bit more intimidating than a linebacker. Kratos is pretty jacked, man. Like, have you seen Kratos' triceps? Holy shit, bro. And I know that this gets into like, people get into heated debates over this. And I don't have a problem with muscular women. Like, that's a whole nother conversation. I know that some people think like, oh, muscular women make men insecure. Maybe some guys, not me. Like, I think that's cool. I think it's cool when people are trying to pack on some muscle and, push their bodies a little bit and get in peak physical condition. I think that's cool. And I actually like Abby's character to an extent for that reason, where she is a badass and like she's a fucking brawler. I like that. My only problem with it is it is jarring to see that, like, if you look around, like, does anybody else around her look anything like that? Anybody? Not that I saw. She's like the only buff person in the game. And I'm like, well, there's even a gym. Like, I know there's a part of the game where they show that she even has a gym there. And even the people in the gym don't look like that. And it's like, this just feels weird for no reason. Like, this is supposed to be one of the most realistic, grounded games. And it's like, Abby she literally looks like me when I'm on creatine and working out constantly. And that's weird to me. Not because it's, again, not that women can't achieve that. It's just women usually need a little bit more to achieve that. But when I look at this as a post-apocalyptic world, and why does nobody else have muscle? It would have even been more believable if they acknowledged this by saying that they have like steroids that people in these certain groups they take to stay, to be and that would actually that would have been a cool little story thing to put in there, where like they acknowledge that certain people in these groups or like just taking steroids is considered like a like a totally okay and actually smart thing to do to an extent, because it's like you're gonna have like a physical advantage so you can survive better. That would make sense, but they never really explained any of that, and it's just like, it. I guess what I'm trying to say is I can't blame people for just kind of looking around and being like, this is kind of jarring a little bit. Like, it just seems like it doesn't really fit in this world in the way that makes sense. Her dad was a surgeon. I don't know. I'm not that hyper fixated on it. To be honest, the only reason I'm talking about this is because when I went into the game again, replaying it, I was thinking to myself, was I too like hard on what Naughty Dog did with this character and the way that they presented her? Were people too hard on her? Like, were the memes unjustified? And again, I'm like rewatching and I'm like, no. You're saying she's built like my cousin and he starts at A&T University as a linebacker? That's what I'm saying, dude. Like, it's just, I hate that, like, people take things the wrong way where women can absolutely get muscular when they train with weights. Like, they absolutely can. But a woman, and listen, I know that there are going to be people who get upset about this, but it's just the way it is. Biologically speaking, and because of human evolution, like, a woman cannot naturally put on as much muscle mass as a man doing the same type of lifting routine. That's not their fault. That's not it. That's nature's fault, dude. If that's just nature's fault, you blame nature at that point. But we live in a world today and a society today where, dude, everybody has access to whatever they want. If you want to take steroids, you can take steroids. Like, it's not hard to find them. Like, you can find them anywhere. You want to reach another level, and enhance yourself, you can do that. And we live in a point now where, like, people don't even judge you for that either. Like, everybody's pretty accepting of it if you're doing it, within a healthy reason and not going extreme. So that's my whole thing, is that it's just, I'm going through the game and I'm reading all these different letters. That's something I'm doing a little bit more now. I'm trying to get more, get a little bit more of the world building, reading all these different letters, and the realism on display in this world is commendable. It's like, yeah, this is a very, in my opinion, realistic depiction of humanity in a world like this, in a post-apocalyptic world like this. Like, it's very brutal. It's very sad and truly depressing, man. Like, some of these letters that you come across are like written by kids and shit. It's like, oh my God. So I just expect a little bit more consistency from a studio like Naughty Dog, where it's like, that's all it is, I just feel like the conversation and the jokes and the memes around Abby being buff shouldn't have ever been a thing, because it's just not consistent with the rest of what you're presenting here. That's all. So I don't think Abby's a woke character. I just think that, if anything, the way that they chose to basically make her like She-Hulk is like, what? I mean, if you explained it, maybe that could help tone down the memes. MBG versus Abby deathmatch. I mean, look, man, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, if I had to go toe to toe with somebody like Abby, I'd expect, well, you know what? She might fuck my ass up. I'm not even kidding. Like, look, man, I'm not going to underestimate somebody like that. First off, I wouldn't underestimate anybody I had to go toe to toe with, but especially somebody who's looking like that. I'm like, okay, you know what? If I'm not careful, I'm going to end up getting suplexed. You're saying Abby would destroy me. That's so funny, dude. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. Chris, a member for 8 months, says, my biggest gripe with the game, I love The Last of Us 2, its pacing. I'm fine with everything that happened, but a different order of events could have made it better. Yeah, I've heard people talk about that as well. Like, maybe it wasn't the actual story itself that was bad. It was just kind of the arrangement of it. I could see that. Am I going to? I see. You're asking if I'm going to give Pal World a try. I don't right now I'm not going to, but I don't know. It depends, man. Like I got to be honest in saying that like I don't have any actual interest in Pal World. Like if I sat here and said like, yeah, I definitely want to play Pal World, I would be lying to you. Just because I didn't even know this game existed until like a week ago. But seeing that it's like taking over, it's almost like it is turning into one of these things where it's like at some point, if this continues, I'm gonna have to see what all the fuss is about. I did it with Fortnite, you know, like I try. I remember it was a long time ago, but I remember when Fortnite was blowing up, I tried it and I just learned. I'm like, yeah, this, I'm good. Like I guess I can see why Fortnite's blowing up, but I'm good. I'm gonna go play PUBG, you know. So maybe I'll give it a shot. I'm curious. I mean, if it was available on PlayStation right now, like yeah, I'd probably just download it and try it. But the thing is, I would have to play it on PC, and I don't play games on PC. If I played Power World on PC right now, that would be my first time playing a PC game, or at least like since the past like 15 years or so. So it's like I don't know that that's going to be the game that gets me to do that. You know what I'm saying? You're saying, come on, you'll try Foam Stars, but not Power World. I want to make it clear I'm not eager to play Foam Stars. I like listen. I'm going to play Foam Stars because Mrs. MBG has some interest in it, and I'm fine with that. You know, like okay, let's give it a shot. I'll tell you right now, I'm not trying to be too down on Foam Stars, but I'm just saying like it doesn't look like a game for me, man. It doesn't. Like, dude, Helldivers 2 comes out 2 days after Foam Stars, and once Helldivers 2 drops, that's probably what I'm going to be playing. But, you know, I try to make sure that you know, I got to keep Mrs. MBG in mind. You know, if she wants to play some Foam Stars, listen. If Mrs. MBG says to me tomorrow or today, like, I want to play Power World, I'll be like, well, all right. But yeah, it's crazy how well that game's doing. So Chris, I agree with that to a certain extent. We'll never know. We'll never know what could have been. Corey Timmons with a $5 super chat says, The Last of Us was written by Amy Hennig before she left Naughty Dog. We have forgot the history of the studio and Neil took what she wrote. Facts. So I'm going to have to do some research on this. Or Corey, maybe you can explain, or maybe my chat. I have never heard that. Is there any truth to this? Because I feel like this is the first time I'm ever hearing of anything like this that Neil took. I that can't be right. Maybe Uncharted 4. Yeah, I remember the whole thing with Amy Hennig happened with Uncharted 4 where she was set to direct it and then there was some kind of falling out and she left and then Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley took over Uncharted 4. The Last of Us, though, I'll be honest, I don't think Amy Hennig had anything to do with The Last of Us, right? Yeah. So, Corey, I think what might be happening here is you might be confusing The Last of Us with Uncharted 4. That's my guess anyway, because I never heard that before. Faberdud, you're saying when The Last of Us Season 2 releases, it'll become obvious just how much respect Naughty Dog has for the maturity of their player base. 100%. They will never try that with TV audiences. Naughty Dog took our passion and loyalty for granted. It's interesting take. Yeah, well, I did say earlier that it'll be very fascinating to see what changes they do or do not make. I mean, I think there are some people under the impression that they're going to do to Pedro Pascal what they did to, Troy Baker, the same way. Like as soon as season 2 starts, and it's hard for me to believe that they would do that because I just want to say really quick. You ever wonder what Sony, like them set, like what the, not, I mean, not the company as a whole, but like, the higher ups at Sony. You ever wonder how they feel about The Last of Us Part 2 and what Naughty Dog did? I wonder this because it's like, I know no, I know that Sony wouldn't say no to Neil Druckmann necessarily. Like, I don't even know that that's Sony's place per se, where it's like, if Naughty Dog says this is what we're doing with our game, I think Sony's just like, okay, yeah, that's great. That's great. But I do just wonder if, like, there's any part of Sony that is kind of like, we don't want there to be this much bullshit surrounding our games. I don't know. Like, look at Spider-Man 2, you know? Like, there's so much bullshit surrounding Spider-Man 2 because of some of the decisions that Insomniac made that I just wonder, Sony, like, you know, are they trying to, like, send a message to Insomniac, like, can you please stop? Like, make, like, whatever you're doing, I doubt it. I mean, that's probably a stretch, but I just wonder, because The Last of Us Part 2 was insane. It was. Like, it was absolutely insane. Like, I just do wonder if, like, Sony's like, guys, you got to move on to something else. Please. Like, for the love of God, please move on to something else. I don't know. Maybe not, though. It really depends on how Sony views The Last of Us Part 2. Does Sony view The Last of Us Part 2 as a massive, colossal success? Or do they view it as it wasn't as successful as the first game? I don't know. I would love to get this insight. So thank you for that, Faberdod. We also have Nate Dogg saying, how did Druckmann have the power to fire Henning? I don't think he did. Why did Amy Hennig leave Sony? What happened? Many believed Hennig's resignation was a result of creative disagreement, and this was proven by the fact that all 8 months of her work was scrapped/modified after The Last of Us, Neil Druckmann, and Bruce Straley production team took over. I see a Reddit thread. Many people need to know this about Amy Hennig. This was posted 4 years ago. Have you heard of her? She's worked on producing games for different publishers, and she's the main director of Sony's Legacy of Kain and Uncharted series. Her talent in script writing has been the main reason for both games, or why they've both been highly successful. After the third installment, she immediately started production with a small team on Uncharted 4, as the majority of Naughty Dog's team at that time was put on The Last of Us production. After the latter's release, Amy and her team has put over 8 months of work, and then she resigned from the company. What happened? Many believed Hennig's resignation was a result of creative disagreement, and this was proven by the fact that all 8 months of her work were scrapped and modified after Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley's production team took over. The biggest difference was in Hennig's vision. Sam Drake was the main antagonist, and Nadine Ross didn't even exist in the scripts. After Hennig's departure, Rafe Adler's rumored original voice actor left the company and was soon followed by Sam Drake's original voice actor, Todd Stashwick. Later in an interview, he said, I left because they decided to go a different way with it. And so when they did that, when they changed leadership, it made my contract null and void, and I was able to take that opportunity to walk away. And also admitted that Stashwick was with him on the decision. He did the same thing I did, which was, yeah, we're going to leave now. Y'all are making some weird changes. We're just going to leave. It's also worth noting that many more employees at Naughty Dog left, including senior developers Justin Richmond and Michael Noland and Nate Wells. I and many others believe Amy Hennig was forced out of the company simply because she didn't want to integrate gender politics and other agendas into her games. This is evident as once Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley took over, they created Nadine Ross, a black muscular woman. Muscular, gotta make sure they're muscular, who beat the shit out. Oh my God. Who beat, somehow we're back here. I didn't think this is where it was headed, but we're back here. Who beat the shit out of both Nathan and Sam Drake without getting hit one time. Now, nothing is wrong with adding diversity into games as long as it isn't forced, but under the given circumstances, it just seems like it is. In an interview with Kotaku, Druckmann admitted Cassandra, Nate's daughter, was initially a son, but after pitching the character idea to his lead concept artist, she asked, what if it was a woman? He also, and Neil Druckmann buckled immediately. He folded instantaneously, like, yes, it is a woman. What are you talking about? Oh, okay. Holy shit, dude! Is there truth to this, dude? If this is really what went down, holy shit, that's sad. That's genuinely depressing. If you're telling me gender politics is what basically caused Amy Hennig, like a legendary game writer and developer, to fucking leave, that is genuinely depressing. Nadine Ross. That's so funny. Oh, you know, I gotta be honest, like I kind of forgot about that in Uncharted 4. Yeah, dude. Buff Nadine Ross beating the shit out of the main characters. It was letting us know what was to come in the future. Holy shit. That to me is really interesting. The part of Nathan Drake's child was supposed to be a son. After pitching the idea to his lead concept artist, she asked, what if it was a woman? I mean, what if it wasn't? You know, like, it is what it is, man. So I don't think that Neil Druckmann necessarily... It seems, well, to be clear, it seems like Amy Hennig didn't get fired. She just left. Like, it seemed... Listen, oh my God, I just remembered something I heard recently. I think this confirms this. So I don't remember which episode of Sacred Symbols I was listening to. I don't know if you guys know Sacred Symbols. It's Colin Moriarty's PlayStation show he does. In one of their recent episodes, in like the past couple of weeks, I remember he was talking about being a games journalist and how when you're interviewing people, sometimes they say things that you like. He was like saying to save their reputation, like to basically save them, don't publish it. And he specifically mentioned something that Amy Hennig had said to him in an interview where I'm trying to remember exactly how it was worded. She was basically talking about the whole, you know, like women in games thing, and how she basically made a statement where she said, like, in her time developing games, like, she hasn't seen, I think it was like sexism. Like, she's saying she hasn't seen any like sexism in the way that it's being described in the industry right now. And this was a while ago. This was probably actually around the time, if I had to assume, where like all this was going down. And she said this, and I think Colin had said something along the lines of like, and he knew he could not publish, like he couldn't quote her on that because it would ruin her. Like, she probably doesn't know that when she's saying it, but it would just, and he's not wrong. Like, Amy Hennig probably would have just canceled herself saying that in such a casual way. But that to me is like, that just popped up in my mind, because as we're reading this, it's like, could you like maybe this is it, man? Is like, you have a real woman, you know, not Neil Druckmann, like an actual woman. You have Amy Hennig, who's the head of one of the most prestigious studios in the world, and then a dude who says, I'm all about women and I'm a feminist, somehow clashes with this woman to leave her in a position where she's like, I'm fucking leaving because you're a clown. And then this man is now in charge of determining how women will be represented. Oh my God. No wonder why people hate Naughty Dog. No wonder why people hate Neil Druckmann. It's all making sense now, man. I'm not even trying to turn it into this, but, you know, people are mentioning Amy Hennig, and I'll be honest, like, I never really looked into it. I never really, you know, I remember when that went down at the time. It was a big deal, but I never really delved into it. And it's interesting that these are seemingly the reasons why Amy left. I do wonder what Naughty Dog would look like today if Amy Hennig was still there. I think she's working on a Marvel game now. I think it's like the Captain America and Black Panther game or something like that. Neil is such a pretentious guy. Oh, yeah, dude. He is. He is obnoxious. Like, I know, like, of course, maybe in person, he's a nice guy, but I was playing. I remember somebody was like telling me, they're like, dude, you're talking about the same guy who put himself in a collectible in The Last of Us Part 2. And I came across that collectible and I'm like, that's cringe, bro. I was like, dude, come on, Dr. Uckman. Are you kidding me? Okay, there we go. Salvazardo6, I appreciate that. You're saying MBG, she told Colin she never experienced sexual harassment. Don't mix things up. Okay. Thank you for correcting that. That's an important correction. So Amy Hennig told Colin Moriarty that she never experienced sexual harassment and that he felt that maybe that was not a great thing to publish at that time because it would have caused a lot of strife potentially with, you know, what was happening at the time. Well, I do apologize for kind of going off on this little side quest here, but Waleed is now a game cat, specifically White Tiger says, get second VR to play with Mrs. MBG. Great table tennis. Oh, I don't think she would play VR too, man. I tried to get her to try PSVR 2, but she gets motion sickness really, really easily. So I don't get motion sickness, like generally speaking, and sometimes I get motion sick using VR 2. She gets motion sickness like normally, you know, with some things pretty easily. So I don't think she'd be able to, but need I remind people Neil gave an award to Anita Sarkeesian? Yeah, I'll be honest, man. Like, to me, that's kind of unforgivable and why I will never respect Neil Druckmann. Like, it's not something that I necessarily care too much about at this point, but when I learned that Neil Druckmann was basically giving credit and attention to Anita Sarkeesian, I realized, like, yeah, that's a problem, and you're gonna, like, if that's really who you think you should be giving your time and attention to, and you really think that person's gonna make the video game industry better, you're totally fucked. You're totally fucked. And it's been proven over time that anybody who was against Anita Sarkeesian was right. You know, like her true colors eventually came out, and she's just like, where is she today? She tried to create problems and point out problems where there were none, and people got fucking pissed off about it. And she took the position of, well, you're all just sexist. Like, no, you're just fucking annoying, and no one likes you because you have a shitty personality. It has nothing to do with your gender. And of course, they double and triple down on that. And then you get people like fucking Neil Druckmann who's like, she is right. It's like, no. Like, you're losing the fucking plot here. I don't know. There's always some kind of bullshit drama, man. And it gets old and it gets tired. At some point, we just got to get back to the basics. Make great games. That's it. Just make great games. Leave the identity politics out of it. Hanzo says, anyhow, salute to Miyazaki. There you go. You're saying Sony should demote him. It's not good for the studio. We'll see. I'll tell you right now, Naughty Dog won't survive another Last of Us Part 2. They won't. Not with Sony. They won't. And what I mean by that, well, I guess I should say Neil won't. Naughty Dog will survive as a studio, but what I mean is this. The Last of Us Part 2, I firmly believe that, and I've talked to you guys about this, when it comes to what Naughty Dog does next, it has to be something more universally loved. Like, Naughty Dog, Neil needs to focus on appealing to the gamer. That's it. Like the gamers, your fans, PlayStation fans, Naughty Dog fans, like not just a group, like everyone. And that might mean don't make something so dire and dark. Don't make something so divisive. Don't try to push the envelope. Just make a great fucking game that everybody wants to play. That's what that might mean. And so I've said this, and I'll say it again. Let's see if Neil is capable of doing that. Because Amy Hennig was capable of doing that with the Uncharted games, and Neil and Bruce came together and did that with The Last of Us 1, with Uncharted 4. So it's like, okay, Neil with Bruce can do that. Can Neil do it on his own, though? Because to me, The Last of Us Part 2 is not a game that everybody wants to play. And that to me is obvious. Like it's not a universally loved game. You can show me the critic review scores. That doesn't mean anything. Go talk to people. It's not a universally loved game that everybody wants to play. I want to see Neil come back out and say, okay, I made that game, the one that divided people, the one that pushed the envelope and created mass amounts of discourse. Now I want to create the game that everybody can just come together and say, yeah, this is a fucking great game. Really fun game. Really great. I want to see him prove that he can do that. Because if he can do that, I think he can right the ship. You know, I know that there are people who believe that Naughty Dog has done no wrong. Trust me, Naughty Dog is not viewed the same way that they once were. Their reputation has taken some hits. And if you don't see that, you're living in denial. I'm not saying they're like in the gutter. I think some people are a little bit extreme, making it seem like the Naughty Dog name means nothing anymore. It's not that severe. They certainly have opportunity ahead of them to win back goodwill and, you know, turn things around. But it comes down to like, people have made it pretty clear what they want from you right now, in my opinion. What I've seen most people saying what they want from Naughty Dog is, we would like a new game that's not as dire, but is good and fun. You know, that's what I see people saying. I do see people saying they want The Last of Us Part 3, but I don't think that needs to be said that of course The Last of Us Part 3 is going to happen. It obviously is. And I think it would be a fucking critical mistake to make that happen now. I think The Last of Us Part 3 is something that if you want to win all the fans back, you make a new game first, one that people universally love, and then you come out The Last of Us Part 3 and you show people that, okay, well, it's not The Last of Us 2. It's 3. It's different. And I think if Naughty Dog can do that back to back, then they'll be fine. And Neil will be fine and everything will be fine. But you know Neil Druckmann's going to do something. you know that man's going to do something. He's going to find a way. It needs to be horror focused on Ellie's PTSD. Yeah, they dabbled with that a little bit with The Last of Us Part 2, and I liked it. But I really need to see something new from them. I really do. We also have New Soul 9 saying, I'm playing Pal World on my Xbox with Game Pass. It's so good. Yeah, New Soul, how is it running on Xbox, man? Like, I've heard people saying that, like, you should play it on PC if you're interested in it. So you have to let me know. I'm assuming you're playing on Series X as well. So you let me know. You're saying the ship is sinking. They must deliver a great game to flip the coin. The idea of the ship sinking, I don't want to make it sound like it's sinking to the point where it's like, okay, they're about to go under. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's like the ship has taken on water and you got to fucking do something. Because like, if you don't do something, it will sink eventually. Like, you guys are not headed in a good direction. And this leads me, so I've went on a lot of different side tangents here and a lot of different side quests, but this leads me to another portion of the conversation. So we've talked about the story. I talked about the visuals of the game. I talked about the story. The story we obviously spent the bulk of the time here discussing. And then that story, talking about the story, led to us talking about Amy Hennig, Neil Druckmann, possible political, identity politics and whatnot being introduced into the studio and into the games. I want to talk about something else, and that is let's talk about the gameplay because I have a lot to say about this, and it's not just about The Last of Us Part 2. So when I say here Naughty Dog can't let this go, I still didn't answer that question. What am I talking about? What I am talking about is Naughty Dog cannot, I refuse to accept this because it would be so stupid, especially after something like the no return mode. Naughty Dog cannot just let this gameplay go. They can't, I understand what happened with The Last of Us Online. It was shelved / canceled, right? Like, hey, they came out and they said, we made this awesome game, but it turns out if we're going to run it, that's all we can do. We're not going to be able to make any more single player games. So we're not doing that. We're going to shelve it. We're going to make single player games because that's what we want to do. I respect that. But you can't just leave this here. You can't do nothing with this. I refuse to accept that. And the reason being is because the gameplay of The Last of Us is too good. Now, I am finding that as I am playing through the story, I am enjoying the gameplay a lot. And this is highlighted by the no return mode. I put a good chunk of time into the no return mode. I'm just about to unlock Joel, finally. And I'm getting more familiar with it. I'm getting better at it. It's quite challenging, I will say. I'm even just playing on the normal mode, so I'm out of practice here. I would like to go into higher, I'd like to go into higher difficulties. But one thing the no return mode is confirming to me. It confirmed what I believed this whole time. That is, God damn, these guys know what they're doing. I know that there's animosity towards Neil Druckmann and even towards Naughty Dog as a studio, but I have to give credit where it is due. Naughty Dog are a group of incredibly talented developers, like to a level in which it's like, it makes me sad that so many of the conversations deviate away from their expertise, because their expertise is, this is why I want them to just make a universally loved game, because the expertise is there, dude. Like if Naughty Dog makes a new game that's not going to be divisive and just be like, wow, this, like, good luck trying to find something to bitch about now. If they do something like that, it's going to bring them right back to the top because they're so fucking good at what they do. And this is kind of the catch-22 right now with a game like The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, with a studio like Naughty Dog, and with the future of PlayStation and Naughty Dog underneath them, is it is such a depressing thought as I'm playing this no return mode, where it's just about the gameplay, man. It's just about stealth, action, the intense moments, barely making it, barely surviving. All of this exists in the story mode, but this mode it's that in its rawest form, with a couple of other different mechanics, such as currency and the way you buy weapons, the way you upgrade weapons. It's all of that just in front of you, and you can see in this no return mode that there's glimmers of, oh wow, that was probably going to be in the Last of Us Online. Like, you can see the sections of the maps, you can see the currency, you can see the way you would spend that currency, you see the way that you would upgrade stuff. Obviously crafting is a part of it, but it is, in my opinion, it will be one of the biggest sins in gaming if Naughty Dog in the future does not do something with this gameplay to let it live on beyond what they did with Factions 1. I understand that they can't do a live service. I understand that because it really would be detrimental to them, apparently, where it's like, yeah, I don't want to see Naughty Dog not make single-player games and just be a live service studio. I don't think anybody wants to see that. I would assume anyway. But I really just feel like they need to... They really have to do something more. Anyway, listen, I'm cutting myself off here because I apologize. I missed some super chats. So if you gave me a super chat and I didn't read it, I apologize. My thing just updated now. I don't know why it did that. I have a couple here. I want to make sure I read it because obviously, thank you guys for the super chats. Hanzo, member for 7 months, says, one love to you, the fam, cats, and the community. Using different titles, which IPs have the best graphics, gameplay mechanics, AI, replay value, story? Well, when it comes to graphics, I mean, I feel like I could give that to Santa Monica. I could give that to Gorilla. I could give that to Kojima. I mean, Death Stranding was one of the better looking PS4 games I ever played, right? But obviously, there's Naughty Dog. Gameplay, well, that's what we're talking about now. Gameplay mechanics, AI. Dude, the AI in The Last of Us is very good. Like, I'm only playing on normal difficulty, and I know this, there are a couple of flaws because it's on normal difficulty. But when the AI is, like they're smart enough to where if you're in a relatively close quarters battle in The Last of Us, and you're firing some shots. I remember I was using my pistol and I fired like 4 shots and I like missed every one. And I was pretty close and, I was out of ammo. I heard the enemy say like, you should have counted, before, like you should have counted, like basically saying I should have counted my shots. And then they started charging at me and I was like fucking panicking because I'm like, oh shit, like they're about to kill me. And it's just like stuff like that. I know that ramps up significantly when you up the difficulty. Like the AI becomes really intelligent. So I think honestly, Naughty Dog does have incredible AI in their games. And I think that The Last of Us Part 2's no return mode, I'm going to try to play this in higher difficulties, like I said, once I get even more familiar with it. But I can already see even on the normal difficulty, like they're kind of killing it in the AI department. And I do wonder like how much further can this go now that they're moving on to a new game. Sorry, I know that answer you were asking, generally speaking, and I still made it about The Last of Us, but it's because that's really what's on my mind right now. I put 12 hours into this game so far, so I've been playing it a lot. Also, my son's out there screaming. I don't know if it's coming through the mic, but I don't know. He's very upset about something. He'll be okay though. To be clear, that's how it is. If you have kids, You're saying they won't close the studio that won 2 Game of the Year? No, Naughty Dog will never close. To be clear, Naughty Dog will never close. You're saying smart enemy AI is something that's lacking in games these days? In some games, yeah, it seems like it really is. I have Disco Cobra 2013 here. First off, Disco, thank you so much for the $20 super chat, man. You're saying, so I think it was yesterday Yang Yan made a video discussing a possible price increase to video games. Not sure if it will happen, but I'm a bit worried. Paying $100 for a video game would surely reduce how many games people buy. Yeah, so I didn't come across that video, but somebody in one of my recent streams said, hey man, you didn't really talk about one of the most obvious things that Sony could do to solve their profit margin problem. And that is just increase the price of games. And they basically said like that's obviously what's going to happen. And the idea of games going to $80, $90, or $100 is scary in the sense that like, yeah, that's a lot of money. Like $70 is already a lot of money for a game. I think it's worth it if it's a game that you are pretty confident in. Like the overwhelming majority of the games that I choose to buy, I feel satisfied with. On rare occasion, I buy a game full price and I'm like, okay, that wasn't really what I thought it would be, or maybe it's somewhat regrettable. You're saying a gaming crash is coming? I think it depends on us. I do. I think this is just where the corporations are going to do what they have to do. So what I mean to say is, if Sony were to increase the price of their games again, you're going to see outrage and people say that's greed. And granted, to a small degree, that will be correct. Like, yes, this is a $1 billion corporation that wants to grow and wants to show their shareholders that they're not going to stagnate or start going down, because that's really bad for a big company of any kind, especially a publicly traded one. But if Sony does that, it's going to be because they really feel like we have to do this. Like, this is the only option for us to keep growing and sustain this, and not start to shrink and go down. And it's going to be up to the market to determine if we are are we on board with that or not? Because believe me, Sony does not want to increase the price of games. No one does right now unless they have to, because they know what's going to happen. It's going to look real bad. It's going to look really bad. And it's going to be a complete shitstorm when that happens, if it does. But we have to ask ourselves, what will the reality be? Will the reality be that, Disco Cobra? Will it be that a lot less people will buy video games if they're $100? Or will it be that actually the decrease isn't nearly as big as you think? You'd be surprised. A lot of people are already paying that amount by buying microtransactions for some games that are full price. But people spend like way more than 100 microtransactions because they're not so micro anymore, right? Or if it's not that, people are already spending that on DLC, on the ultra, ultimate omega whatever alpha edition of their game, where it's like $110. People are already doing that. So I do think inherently, if the prices go up, less people will be buying games, and people will find things like subscription services even more appealing, right? But look, I would definitely be more hesitant myself. Like if games across the board to buy and own were going to be $100, it would definitely cause me to hesitate. And that, like, okay, there's no chance I'm taking any risk now. Like, I'm only going to buy a game if I'm fucking sure, like, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it. That's the only way I'm going to spend $100 on a game. Like, and that's just me. I mean, I'm already kind of like that at $70, but you add another 30 on top of that. Like, I'm definitely going to be like, this game's got to be worth it. There can't be a question about it. And that's what makes this difficult and unrealistic, because it's like, that's still a tough sell for so many people, That's still, like, you know what I mean? Like, even if you show, I don't know, some people believe that GTA 6 is going to cost $100. And GTA 6 could do that. And it would change everything. If GTA 6 was announced to be $100, it would be the most successful video game financially ever created instantaneously because of that. But it would then cause, the problem that would cause is it would show, like Rockstar would prove, if you create a desirable enough high quality product in the gaming industry and you charge $100 for it, people will buy it in droves. But then the problem becomes, all right, well, people feel like GTA 6 is worth $100, but what about every other game? What about when EA says, all right, this new Star Wars game is going to be $100? Are people going to say, well, I paid $100 for GTA, but I don't know, is this Star Wars game going to be as good as GTA? Because if not, I'm going to say it's not worth $100. Maybe it's worth $70. Maybe not $100, but not $100. It'll create a weird. The conversation will transform, and it will be a tough one, because people are going to draw their lines in the sand, so to speak, But I could see GTA 6 ushering in the era of like $100 games. And I think I'm not saying it's likely. I'm just saying it's a real possibility. And they would do it for one reason and one reason only, because they know we can. We can and we will. And what are you going to do about it? You know what you're going to do? You're going to buy it. That's what you're going to do. And that's a powerful motivator in a time where, again, keep in mind, apparently the budget for GTA 6 is like well over $1 billion or more than that. And it's just like, yeah, you could see how they looked at it and they're like, yeah, we're just going to charge 100. You know, saying I'm a fake PlayStation fan. You got me, man. You're saying very realistically it would be $80. I could see that too. Yeah, it could be the first $80 game. It would still kill at $80. So Disco Cobra, it's an interesting conversation to have, man, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this in the future because the problems aren't going away. Some people do think that the gaming industry and the gaming market is going to crash, and it might. It's not necessarily my problem. I'm just one person, and I know how I interact with video games. The way I interact with video games is very simple. I see what's out there. Um, I see what appeals to me, and I pay for what seems like it'll be worth the asking price. That also appeals to me, of course. And I think generally speaking, that's how most of the market still operates. But it seems like the economy in general is becoming a problem for the gaming industry as well, because it's like part of the reason why the cost of game development is going up so much is because of the economy itself. And so it's like I don't know if that's going to correct itself anytime soon. But in a way, in the same way that when the prices rise for us, regular people just trying to live, and make our living, when that, in the same way that we have to adjust to that, these corporations, they also have to adjust. It's just on a different scale. So I guess I'm just trying to say that what's going on in the economy is affecting everything. But I appreciate that super chat, Disco Cobra. And I appreciate all the support you've been showing the channel. We also have Fabrice Paul saying Pal World is everything Square Enix hoped Foam Stars would have become, but the big problem for them is their game is just a copy with nothing new to add. Well, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, Pal World is clearly a copy of Pokemon, but I guess what you're saying is the new thing that Pal World is adding is guns. I would argue that's far from the most creative thing to add, but it also hasn't been done. So when it comes to Foam Stars, I'll be honest with you, I don't know, I can't judge Foam Stars for the simple fact that, like, I've never played Splatoon, and I don't know. I mean, I've also haven't played Foam Stars, but based off of what I've seen of Foam Stars, I don't know if it's truly a one-to-one copy of Splatoon. I don't know if it's doing some things differently, if it has different mechanics, or if it's actually just the same. Like, no, it's just the same game, just a different art style. But generally speaking, both of these games are very derivative, but one clearly spoke to the market. To me, that's the difference between Pal World and Foam Stars. I'm not saying Foam Stars is going to fail. I don't know that I have much confidence in it. I mean, Foam Stars could blow up, but it could also just, be a fart in the wind. It could also just be fine and hold its own. What I can say is that right now, Pal World has proven that, holy shit, people were dying for a game like this. I don't know that I would have said that prior to its release. In the same way that I don't know that I can say that about Foam Stars. Are people dying for a game like Foam Stars? My gut tells me not really. But we talked a little bit about Pal World earlier, and all I can say at this point is this game, if it continues to do what it's doing, it has a really, really, really bright future. But I also think that certain complications will arise, as they always do, with massive hit success games like this, where it's not just going to be total smooth sailing going forward. We're already kind of seeing that with accusations of them using AI and stuff like that to make the game. It's already being targeted, and so we'll see though. People seem to really love it. So Fabrice, I appreciate that, man. You're saying it seems like a part-time job? Yeah, that's the thing that it looks heavily inspired. Apparently, it is heavily inspired by Pokemon, but people are saying like it's mostly a survival game. Like it's actually very different from Pokemon, and maybe that's the catch. Maybe that's the thing that really is separating this game from Pokemon. It's not just the fact that there's guns, right? Because for me on the outside looking in, I'm just assuming it's just literally Pokemon with guns. But I've heard people saying that like, no, it has like intense survival mechanics. It's really in depth, so on and so forth. So, PlayStation Pete, thank you for the $5 super chat, buddy. You're saying, what if Abby killed Joel, his brother, and Ellie? Well, I mean, I feel confident in saying that if that is what ended up happening in The Last of Us Part 2, almost like even people who like Abby as a character, I think everybody would say, nah. Like that's like I think Naughty Dog would be over. At least not literally as a studio, but I just think people are like, yeah, you guys are done. I don't know what you did here if they did it, but kind of got close though. You know, like you got to admit, at certain points there were it seemed like that could have been where it was headed. But it's an interesting thought, PlayStation Pete. So I appreciate that. We have Doolin Jones. Thank you for the generous super chat, my friend. You're saying just got the WLF edition physical disc for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered today, and I played it on the PS5 console and Portal for 5 hours. So far, the details in the game are top notch. Nothing has changed my mind about this game. So beautiful, and I love it. Well, I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it, man. That's something I want to acknowledge too, is that I have my own opinions of the game, which I've obviously been spending the past 3 hours talking about. But there are people who absolutely love this game and adore it, and I don't judge people for that. I don't. Like I actually I appreciate that because I don't want to see people feel like they can't express how they actually feel, where it's like I have a friend that played The Last of Us Part 2 for the first time recently, and I asked him, "What did you think?" And he's like, "Oh, I loved it." And I was like, "That's like there's nothing else. You just loved it." He's like, "Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I platinumed it." And I was like, "Wow, okay." And it was just interesting to me because it was like I was waiting for the but or end, and there wasn't any of that. He played it and he really enjoyed it, and he liked the first game too. And I'm like, great, like this to me, there's nothing wrong with that because I don't feel like it's my place to tell people what they should or shouldn't enjoy. But the best I can do is just give my thoughts and my opinion, and I'm sure there are people who feel the same way and people who don't. But I do obviously have my own, because of that, I also have my own hopes for the future of The Last of Us, of Naughty Dog, which I'm going to continue to talk about. So, Doolin, I appreciate that, man. And I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it. It's interesting that you're saying you played it on the Portal as well. Good stuff, dude. Also, physical games for life, man. Rich Rod 908, thank you. You're saying, what did I miss so far? Triple OG MBG. You missed quite a bit. Well, you sent this at 2:52 p.m. So yeah, you missed quite a bit, man. You're probably gonna have to come back and rewatch this if you want the whole scoop. But we basically have just been talking about The Last of Us for like 95% of the time. That's pretty much what this stream is. So thank you for that, Rich Rod. We also have New Soul 9 saying MBG Pal World runs pretty good. It has some bugs, but nothing too crazy. It is in preview after all. The most fun part is the survival aspect, especially when you play with friends. It gives me Ark vibes. Yeah, that's what I remember reading. There you go. Thank you for mentioning that, New Soul. People were saying that, dude, this game has more in common with Ark Survival Evolved than it does Pokemon. And that was very surprising to me because I haven't really seen any gameplay. I've just seen like screenshots and like just a few seconds here and there of people like beating the shit out of certain what looked to be like Pokemon, which is pretty funny. And I had no idea it was like that deep of a survival game that was like actually similar to Ark. Very funny. So New Soul, I appreciate you letting me know, man. I'll be very interested to see if Here's a question I have. Is Pal World like actually an exclusive for Xbox? Like Microsoft signed a deal with them, or is it just one of those things where it's exclusive to Xbox right now because it's in preview, and they just literally can't release it on PlayStation. That's my question, because if it's an actual exclusivity deal between Microsoft and this gaming studio, Sony might be a little bit worried about that. If there's no exclusivity deal, then Sony's probably not worried, because they're like, well, we'll just get it. It's in Game Pass. Okay. Well, yeah, okay. That tells me there's some kind of deal there. Yeah, we'll see what happens with this game, man. It was supposed to be PC only. Xbox paid them to make it for Xbox, but not exclusive. Possibly timed. Well, here's what I'll tell you, and I firmly believe this. Not just for Microsoft, but for Sony as well. Like I'm saying, if Sony had a game this successful, I think games that prove to be this successful, where I mean they are just in a totally different hemisphere, they're in a world of their own, it'll be everywhere. It will be everywhere. Like even if Sony made a game as successful as Power World and it did those numbers on PlayStation, I think Sony would be like, we got to put this everywhere. Because why wouldn't you? Like it just wouldn't. A game with that level of reach, it's like, why wouldn't you? That's my opinion anyway. But I don't know. Maybe Microsoft, who knows? Maybe Microsoft will try to buy the damn studio. Knowing them, that's next in line. Yeah, you're saying, bro, Sony just now got Roblox. That's true. That's true. RichRod908 with another $5 super chat. Really appreciate the support, guys. You're saying PlayStation needs a live service game like Pal World. Not every game has to be huge. Just a niche AA game where they make money like they want from AAA or for AAA. I agree. I don't think Sony needs a live service game to reach the same heights as a game like Pal World or even these other successful live services. I think that's the goal. That's what they want, obviously, but I'm in agreement. What Sony needs is something just relatively sustainable, something that can make them money consistently. It doesn't have to be copious, egregious amounts of money. It can just be a good amount of money that, helps them out. I think that's what they need. MBG Yoshida just replied yes to a comment asking him to bring Pal World to PS5. Oh, really? That's so funny. Yoshida's on it, bro. Shuhei Yoshida's on that shit. He's like, Pal World? What? Breaking records? He's on it. He's doing his job. That's an indie studio. So that actually, yeah, that's actually right in his wheelhouse, man. Shuhei Yoshida's the head of indies. So he's like, oh yeah, I'm on that shit. Good stuff. Good job, Shu. That's so funny. Wait, the devs already said it's not coming. Hold on. I'm getting mixed signals here. Wait, hold on. When did they say that, though? Shu has awoken. That's so funny. I mean, I'll be honest, like, I don't know why Shu would say yes to an answer like that or to a question like that if that is how the devs feel. The devs said we have no plans for PS5. Okay. That makes more sense. They're probably not worried about it right now because it's going to take time and effort. But I bet you Sony's like, we should try to, like, I bet you Sony would pay them at this point. I mean, you look at how well it's doing. I bet you Sony would try to pay them to help, to convince them, like, please bring this game to PS5. We would like to make some of that money as well. We want to get in on this. They may not have plans, but Shu does. Bucky, the community manager, said today it's only going to be on Xbox and Steam, and it's not coming to PlayStation. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not following it that closely. Well, I guess we'll see, man. I mean, we do. Yeah, I don't know. This could be a messy situation where it's like maybe they aren't allowed to say anything without breaking some kind of contract that they signed with Microsoft. But listen, I'll say this: if this game stays locked on Xbox and PC and doesn't come to PS5, that's crazy because it's like, holy shit, Sony, you lost out, dude. I mean, that to me, I'm not saying it would like hurt Sony aggressively, but it's like, you know, Sony would have to be at least a little upset in that. How like why? You know, like why couldn't this game just be multi-plat? But I do feel like usually with games this successful, they don't just stay like eventually it'll probably become multi-platform, you know. That just seems to be the natural path for these incredibly successful live service games. Like next level successful. But we'll see. Maybe it'll never come to PlayStation. Time will tell. Time will tell. Boycott activity with the $2 super chat says Mario Maker is Nintendo's Little Big Planet and no one mentions it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I wonder why that is. I wonder why. I think people just like to pick and choose at times. Like I'm of the mindset, dude, listen, I don't care if you want to copy a game. Make the exact same game and change just a couple things. I don't care. If it's good, I'll play it. It's just more of what I like. That's how I feel, man. Like I think that there's enough room for all of it. I mean, again, Lies of P is one of my favorite games ever, and I've seen people say that they're not going to play it because it's just they feel like it's just a rip off of Bloodborne. It's like your loss, you know. I mean that, like it's your loss, dude. Like it's a great fucking game. But I need to get back on topic here because I don't want I want to try to make sure I can wrap this stream up before we hit the 4 hour mark. Because I do want to do a members lounge and I don't want to be totally tapped out for that. So getting back on topic, I do have a couple of other things I wanted to say in regards to The Last of Us and its gameplay. And when I say that, again, just to reiterate, when I say in my title and thumbnail that Naughty Dog can't let this go, I'm referring to multiplayer. I'm referring to the gameplay mechanics that they've created. They listen, Naughty Dog's gameplay for The Last of Us is some of the most unique and fun gameplay that exists in the industry. It's heavy, it's weighty, it's got a lot of physics behind it, but it's tactical and it's thoughtful. It's slower, and that's what makes it so tactical and allows you to put so much thought into it. And one of the things that I love about this, and I have to answer this question too, is this remaster worth it? Well, again, I'm giving you my impressions, not my final review. So you have to keep in mind that what I tell you is just based on my impressions. Well, I would say if you are paying the $10 upgrade fee, it depends on how much you like The Last of Us gameplay. If you are more of a story person and that's what attracts you to The Last of Us and these games, I don't know that the $10 upgrade is going to be worth it unless you really want to replay the story of The Last of Us 2 on your PS5. Or if you want to get the behind the scenes content, you might find it worth it for $10. You might find the commentary worth it. But my feeling on this is that the $10 is easily worth it if you are a fan of the gameplay of The Last of Us, simply for the no return mode alone. Because the no return mode it's pretty fleshed out. There's more to it than I expected. And it's clearly Naughty Dog's first time at doing like a roguelike, and they're doing it really well. And it's very fun. And if you like, again, if you like that gameplay loop that The Last of Us offers, that The Last of Us Part 2 specifically offers, I think you're really going to enjoy No Return. And so that by itself, regardless of whether or not you feel like it looks worth the upgrade, like literally visibly speaking, like, oh, it just doesn't look like any different than the first game. To me, it's purely, for me, a gameplay driven thing where yeah, after putting about, I'd say I put probably 3 or 4 hours in total so far into No Return. Yeah, it's worth it. I'm having a really good time just doing these rounds, and they're not drawn out either. Like, it's quick, and when you do your run, you can get through these runs pretty quickly too. Like, sometimes it depends on what approach you take. If you're taking more of a stealth approach, they could take a little bit longer to get through. I beat my first boss battle yesterday against a bloater, and it was funny because I thought it was going to be really super difficult. I was really nervous, and I think I was actually playing as Jesse, and I just totally decked out. I got a flamethrower, a rifle with a bunch of rounds, a shotgun with incendiary rounds. I got pipe bombs, and I just fucking obliterated that round. I was like, oh, I got like an S rank. I'm like, oh, okay. It was a little bit overkill on my part, but what I'm trying to say is that Naughty Dog has something truly special with the gameplay that they've created in The Last of Us. And if they really, they are likely working on a new IP. And I don't know, a part of me just wishes that they would make some kind of standalone, purchasable Last of Us multiplayer game that isn't a live service. Like, this is the game, it's $30. We'll support it with some updates, but the content you get in that package is the content you get and the content you play. I wish they would do that, because I think what Naughty Dog's biggest fuck up wasn't The Last of Us Part 2. It wasn't what they did with Abby and Joel, in my opinion. I mean, of course, we could talk about that, and we did talk about that, and people will continue to talk about that. To me, Naughty Dog's biggest fuck up is what they did with The Last of Us multiplayer, or what they call The Last of Us Online. I say this because it's clear now, 2020 hindsight, I'm sure they feel the same way. When we were told that The Last of Us Part 2 wasn't going to have multiplayer shipping with it, it was because they said, we're going to make something much bigger and better. And it sounded amazing. And we waited years, and Naughty Dog teased this game over and over again. And, it's water under the bridge at this point, but we know how it went. And somewhere along the way, somebody was totally unaware of the fact that, oh shit, we're going to have to dedicate our studio to running this. And I just wish so much that that isn't the decision they made. I wish I could go, well, it's not like I could have changed anything, but I wish that Naughty Dog could go back in time, and as soon as they made that decision that, you know what, scrap the Factions 2 mode, we're going to go with a whole live service, I wish they would have said, no, we're going to do Factions 2, and we're going to ship it a little bit after we put out The Last of Us Part 2. And we'll support it, for a while, but that's what it's going to be. I wish so much that they would have done that, and that we would have that today, because I think it would benefit the Last of Us series and Sony so much, where Factions 1 was really good. It had so much potential, and people loved it, and they could have done a little bit more with a second one, and tried to flesh out some of those ideas a little bit more without going over the top ambitious. And I just wish that Naughty Dog wasn't mismanaged like this, man, because again, playing the no return mode, even the no return mode, people are saying this game is screaming for co-op, for multiplayer co-op. And I agree. Like, I don't know if they're going to do that, but oh my God, it is. It absolutely is. Add more enemies to each wave. They do have companion partners sometimes that spawn in when you're playing. And it's like, imagine if that was another player that you could talk to and communicate with and be more tactical with. It would have been awesome, man. It's so sad. And I feel like Naughty Dog would be making a huge mistake if they truly just let this go and die. They need to wake up. They do. Like, somebody at Sony needs to fucking wake up and realize that while Naughty Dog may not be equipped to be a full-blown live service studio, they have too much talent here They have created something so fun to play, a gameplay loop so fun that you have to do something with it. You would be frankly stupid. I'm sorry, but Sony and Naughty Dog would be stupid to not do anything more with The Last of Us in some kind of multiplayer environment. I'm not saying it has to happen next year or the year after that, but this idea that they are just not doing anything and they've totally moved on, it's like, I think you guys are crazy. I think it's absolute insanity that you want to have successful multiplayer games. And granted, I know you want them to be live service, but I think it's crazy that like you have a studio here that created that. And it's just a shame, man. I don't mean to keep harping on it, but if anything, it speaks to what I love about Naughty Dog and the last excuse me, the Last of Us universe. Oh God. And that is the amazing gameplay. You're saying The Last of Us could have been what the day before wanted to be. It could have been, yeah. It's not easy, but even just now playing with The Last of Us Part 2 mechanics again, it's like the Last of Us 1 factions mode. Imagining even just that same mode just with The Last of Us 2 mechanics would have been amazing. Even just that would have been amazing. You're saying it's too late. They aren't doing anything because of the fan base. Y'all keep saying it's all good. Do something and they believe it. I'm sorry on Nintendo Studios. I almost missed your chat here. Member for 25 months says my Edge has serious stick drift. It's now my 6th PS5 controller. Get it? I've waited weeks for the stick replacement. Buy them before you need them. Yeah, I was thinking about that for the DualSense Edge. That makes me nervous. It's one thing for a regular controller to get stick drift, but a $200 DualSense Edge controller getting stick drift is, yeah, that's not good. I might take your advice. Saying it's Jim Ryan's fault. Well, as much as I enjoy talking about the story of The Last of Us Part 2 and diving deep into my thoughts and feelings on that, the truth is I feel so much more strongly about the multiplayer side at this point, where sometimes I think I just try to not think too much about the fact that Naughty Dog spent like 4 years making a Last of Us online multiplayer game to then just come out and say, yeah, we're canceling it, because it just feels unfair to the fan base. It feels unfair to the it even feels unfair to the game itself, where it's like, another reason why I was so excited for it is because it really did suck to see just how much divide was on display and still is on display regarding the Last of Us franchise at this point in time. And I think a successful, really fun, really engaging Last of Us online multiplayer game would have really done wonders to repair that and lessen that divide and bring people together and be like, you know what? Okay, well, maybe we have our opinions on where the direction they took the story in the second game, but you know what? This fucking multiplayer experience is absolute fire. Let's go fucking kill some clickers together. Let's go do some PvP. Like it's God, I'm telling you right now. And this is where I do start to get my very strong opinions out here based off of emotion. When we see Naughty Dog's next game, I think we might see it this year. If we don't see it this year, we have to see it next year. But whenever we see it, so help me God, if it doesn't fucking look impeccable. So help me God, if this game reeks of woke pandering bullshit that is well beyond anything we saw with The Last of Us Part 2. So help me God, if this is the direction that Naughty Dog went in, I will be fucking calling for Neil Druckmann to straight up get fired. Because I will not be able to accept that they said, fuck this live service game. Let's go do it. Like, what I'm saying is their next game needs to fucking bring the heat, dude. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not talking the heat where it's like, oh, the fucking gaming media loves it. No, fuck that. I'm talking the heat, bro. Like, bring a fucking incredible game that's going to blow everybody away and remind everybody we're fucking Naughty Dog. That's what I'm talking about. Not some fucking like, oh, well, we need to make sure we get our 10 out of 10s, our ESG, or whatever the fuck. None of that shit. I want to see a great game. And honestly, for me, the pressure on Naughty Dog, they made the decision. They said, look, the games that we're working on now are more important than this Last of Us Online live service game. And it's like, okay, thanks for making us wait 4 years to cancel this. Good to know you just now came to the conclusion that it turns out you're going to have to support a live service game. Not sure how you missed that one 4 years in development, but to me, that's like, all right, that's another red flag for your studio. And I'm getting a little bit tired. People laugh at Naughty Dog at this point. Oh, all they know how to do is remake and remaster and milk The Last of Us. And it's like, I can't argue that. Why would I even try? Like, yeah, I'm not saying I fully agree, but I totally understand why you're saying that. Naughty Dog has to remind people by doing the simplest thing. Show a new fucking game and let that game speak for itself. I don't want to hear from Neil. I want to hear from anybody over there. I want to hear the game speak for itself. And I want this game, when we see it, to say, hey, we canceled The Last of Us multiplayer for this to exist. And I want to turn around and say, you know what? You made the right decision. Because when I think about, I'm telling you right now, man, I'm sitting here playing The Last of Us Part 2. I'm playing this. I'm experiencing this gameplay. This Last of Us live service game would have been the hit Sony is desperate for. I promise you. I fucking promise you this would have been it. And they canned it. And so it's like, you know what? Please don't let it be in vain. That's all I'm saying. It can't be for nothing. Right? It can't be for nothing. It has to be for something that's worth it. And I know I'm sounding really intense right now, but it's just because I know some of you right now, if not most of you, have been following me for years now and listening to me talk about this Last of Us multiplayer game for years. And anybody who has, the level of fantasizing that I did on this game, where I'm like, this is going to be it, man. Like, we're going to create our character. We're going to have our home base. We're going to go on missions. We're going to fucking fight hordes of enemies. There might be a battle royale. We're going to have PvP. There's going to be open zones where you can talk and trade with other players. You're going to have it all. You're going to have it all. And that was me every time I talked about this multiplayer game. And then they're just like, sorry. So the pressure is, as far as I'm concerned, the pressure is on. Where if Naughty Dog, if you are going to let this go, if Naughty Dog decides we're going to let this multiplayer and this gameplay loop go, and maybe one day way later on we'll return to it with The Last of Us Part 3, then please God, like, let it be worth whatever comes next, because I don't think I could take much more from Naughty Dog. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I can't take another remake. I can't take another remaster. I can't take another cancellation. I can't take another letdown. I just can't do it. I'm hanging by a thread with this studio. And I know that to some people, they get annoyed when they hear it because, like, we talking about they're amazing. Well, I'm just speaking for me, man. I'm hanging by a thread, and I need them to remind me. I need them to win me back. I don't mean to sound entitled, but I want them to. Because I really appreciate Naughty Dog's expertise, man. No matter how much, even if the day comes where they let me down so bad, I'm like, I'm done. I will always respect Naughty Dog and that they are talented developers, man. Like they know what they're doing. And I respect that. I'll always respect that. But I hope they can get me back to a place. I want to get back to the same place where I was when I experienced The Last of Us 1 for the first time. That's where I want to be. Where it's like, oh man, you guys are insane. This is incredible. I want to be back there. Or at least as close to it as possible. That's all. We got Titus Serger. I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly. I apologize if I butchered it, but I'll call you Titus. You have well, first off, it says it's your first time super chatting, so I want to thank you for that. And you have 3 super chats here, so I'll read them back to back. You're saying, "Hey MBG, I love your content, and this is my first super chat. But I watch your videos and am subscribed even before you showed yourself in front of a camera. I watch your streams all the time, even when I can't watch all of them live. I live in Germany, but I watch them later on my tablet while playing games. I just like to hear your opinion about the whole video game industry and just wanted to thank you for all your great content over the last years." Well, thank you so much for that, man. That's incredibly kind of you. And you have another one here, another super chat where you say, "A big shout out for this community as well. I've never seen so many generous people who give memberships to other people that frequently in every stream." Well, Titus, dude, thank you so much for showing love to not only me as a creator and the content that I put out here, but to the community as well. It's I appreciate every super chat I get, but it's always you know it's always nice to see a first time super chatter, somebody who's listening, tuning in, watching, but maybe isn't necessarily always engaged or chatting. They're just kind of enjoying the content. It's always really nice to hear from people that way. And Titus with another super chat saying, "Thank you so much, man." Saying, "I would love to gift some memberships in the future, but currently it isn't possible because of my financial situation." Well, hey, man, it's all good. I'm again, man, you're coming in here. You dropped, what was that, like 4, that you dropped 5 super chats back to back to back. And it's like, I appreciate that support, man. And that's why I do this, like I do it because first off, people support me and allow me to do this, but it's always fascinating to me that when I look back on the streams that I do, that there's like a couple thousand views, sometimes even more than that, where it's like these are people that I know are not necessarily fully engaged, but they're tuning in, they're watching, they're listening, and that means a lot, like that still means a lot to me. And it's easy to just kind of look at that as like a number, but it's like when I really think about it, like that's hundreds, thousands of people that look forward to listening to what I have to say for potentially hours at a time. So I appreciate hearing from you, Titus. And you got another one here. You got another one, and you're saying, "P.S. I know that I'm in the minority, but I have the same opinion about The Last of Us Part 2 and had the hopes for another story with Ellie and Joel. But I get the love for this game and accept others' opinions about it. I just wish people would accept why someone doesn't like the game." Well, Titus, dude, you're dropping a lot of super chats here, man. And I totally feel you on that. Like, if there's something that has become truly painful to watch over the past 3 years since this game released, is that I know people have their strong opinions. I have my opinions, but it does make me sad to see that sometimes people get so dug in where it's like there's just no room for meeting each other in the middle anymore. And I try my best. I know I make it hard sometimes because I'm just, I'm a person. I have my own strong opinions about things. I try my best to meet people in the middle where it's like earlier, for example, when we were talking about this and I was talking about Joel and Tommy and how it just seems totally unbelievable to me how they let their guard down, whatever. Other people are telling me like, well, man, I mean, hey, this is how I see it. It seems maybe they just got softer. You got to consider this, that, and I try to like listen to that. I may not come to the conclusion that I agree with that or like, oh, you changed my mind. You probably didn't change my mind, but I try to entertain that and allow that to live because I feel like it's better to do that than to just like, there are obviously some things in my life where I'm going to say, nope, this is how I feel, and there's no changing that. A lot of times, if that's how I feel about something, I probably won't be talking about it this much. You know what I mean? If I'm not open to hearing anything else about it or to consider other things about it, I probably wouldn't even be talking about it in the first place because I've already made my decision. But in the case of The Last of Us Part 2 and a studio like Naughty Dog, it does make me sad to see that so many people are just like, "Oh no, I hate that studio. They suck now." It also makes me sad to see people like, "No, they're perfect. They never did anything wrong and people are just babies." You know, I don't like either of that because it's like, well, if anything, I think both of those things are not necessarily wrong, but they're too simple. You know, they don't lead to further discussions and conversations that I think should be had in and hopefully a healthy way about this stuff. Because when you create just a one-way street, one-way line of communication where it's like this is all that can be said about it and all that I'm going to say about it and all I'm going to hear about it, well, it just doesn't leave room for anything else. And for me, knowing how much I love The Last of Us 1, how much I wanted to like love The Last of Us 2, and also just knowing how much talent is there still at Naughty Dog. It's like it feels impossible for me to just walk away and say, "Nah, that's it. That's all there is." You know, it's like, no, I can't yet, you know? And so Titus, I really appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for all those super chats and thank you for uh speaking such kind words about me, the channel, the content, the community, and also giving some of your thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2. I really appreciate that, man. So, um good stuff. Good stuff. You guys are amazing. Seriously. Thank you so much. We're over 3.5 hours into the stream and you guys are still out here showing such incredible support. It's awesome. I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful. I know that I've lost subscribers. I know that some people have made the decision that the type of content that I'm producing on the channel now just maybe isn't necessarily for them, not what they really subscribed for, and that's totally fine. But it's always just nice to see that there are people here who really appreciate this, and that's what fuels me, man. That's what keeps me going. Even when sometimes maybe it's not so exciting, or sometimes when there's just BS going on. But good stuff, man. Good stuff. For some reason, I see Max Payne 4 in the chat. I hope we get a Max Payne 4 one day. Although what makes me sad about a Max Payne 4 is we're not going to have James McCaffrey as the voice of Max Payne anymore because sadly he passed away recently. Steranko says he loves this community and these streams. Well, we love you too, man. By the way, let me go check on this poll. Where are we at? 1,154 votes. 20% of you said, yes, I bought The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. 24% of you said, yes, I upgraded. And 55% said, no, I did neither, based on those 1,154 votes. So it's very interesting. Really quick, Heatwave PS5. I'm sorry, man. I almost missed your milestone chat. You're saying MBG Sony needs to go big for the 30th anniversary. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I could not agree more. I don't even know what I could say to express how much I agree with that. MBG, does the $10 upgrade count as a sale? I'm going to say probably not. That would be kind of strange if it did. Because, I mean, if you present those numbers to your shareholders, like, this is how many copies The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered sold, and it's like 70% of the numbers you're presenting were just $10 upgrades. I mean, I don't count that as a sale, no, because they're not new customers, you know. I think anybody buying the game for $50, that would be, yeah, it's basically seen as DLC. Yeah, I would only count the $50 buyers as proper sales of the game. But I think this is where I'm going to conclude this stream, and I do want to say before anybody leaves, guys, we are going to be doing a members lounge. Okay, I'm gonna set up a members lounge. I think I'll target maybe 4 o'clock for the members lounge, 4 p.m. Eastern. So if you are a member, please join me there. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys a little bit more, talking to you guys. Maybe there will be some gameplay over there. I don't know. What does MBG have planned for the members launch today? I guess you'll have to find out. Whether it be Last of Us 2 gameplay in the members lounge. We're going to play The Last of Us Part 2 the way it was meant to be played, as Joel. Seriously, I hope you join me over there. By the way, I do want to make it known to everybody as well. I did do a dedicated gameplay stream for The Last of Us Part 2 on Friday. So if you haven't checked that out, go check it out. I've played some of the no return mode. I am going to be I was serious, and I'm going to make sure that I stay serious with it, where I told you guys that this year I want to make a much bigger effort to play games on the channel, not just in the members lounge, of course, in the members lounge, but also at times here on the regular channel. That's something I'm very serious about, because I told you, and not to harp on it too much, but I did tell you guys at the beginning of this year that I feel like this was something that was really lacking last year. I feel like last year I got too consumed at times by the conversations that are happening online, the bullshit, the stuff that's just not really relevant to what I'm trying to achieve here on the channel. And make no mistake, what I am trying to achieve here on this channel is to talk about video games, to talk mainly about PlayStation, but to talk about the gaming industry as well as video games themselves. And I think last year I got too caught up in the politics of it, so to speak, in the headlines, which will still be prevalent on the channel, of course, but I didn't leave enough room. That's why, look, I know some people might walk away from this stream or enter the stream thinking that the only reason MBG is talking about this is because he just loves to hate on The Last of Us 2, or if not hate on it, just constantly talk about it. I plan to do this more. I want to do more impression streams, more review streams. And people, every time I say that, people mention Sekiro. Listen, I can promise you Sekiro is not on the docket right now. I can tell you that right now. Sekiro is not on the docket because I was looking at the games that are coming up, man, and like, dude, between now and the end of March, pretty much going into April, it's fucking stacked. I'm going to try my best to balance out how I'm playing games. But I imagine there will be a lull period this year. If there's a really extended lull period this year where I'm not playing anything, I'll reconsider playing Sekiro. But I told you, I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm gonna play Sekiro secretly. I'm gonna beat it secretly, and then I'm gonna stream it and say, "Hey guys, I'm gonna play Sekiro again." And you're gonna be like, "Holy shit, you're so good at it!" Be like, "Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just got good." I'm gonna hustle everybody. But yeah, thank you guys so much for all of your support. We're sitting at 56 members today. We got incredible support with membership gifts to everybody who gifted a membership today or re-upped their membership. Thank you guys so much. I really sincerely appreciate the support. I think that there were even new people gifting some memberships today. So you guys are awesome. A lot of super chats, a lot of really interesting super chats. Thank you guys so much for that. I am fan funded. This channel is completely fan funded. The only reason this content exists is because you guys make it happen. You guys make it possible. So thank you for that. I'm only going to ask one more time before I end the stream. As you guys are heading out, please hit that like button. We're sitting at 290 likes. It'd be great if we could get up to 300 or beyond that. Leia, I see you, Leia. And I also want to give a shout out to Devil Shooter, who does the timestamps for all of the streams. He does an incredible job. So if you see him in the comments, give him a big thank you. Show him some love. Leia. She's playing with a something she found on the ground. Dangerously close to my PC wires. So, all right, Members Lounge going up at 4 p.m. Eastern. So in about 15 minutes, I will catch you guys there. And anybody that I don't catch there, I will catch you in the next stream. Okay. So that does it. Thank you guys for all the support, and I will catch you in the next one. So until then, take care, everyone.